the fact that, like, yes, as Ahrelevant said, we live symbiotically. Allowing other people to live a better quality of life is beneficial to you as well. And if patriarchy affects both men and women, and what we're all fighting against is the patriarchy, then it makes sense that making it to where men who suffer because of patriarchy are going to be lifted out of that as well. People change over time, that they have other influences on them, and they start to value other things. They grow up, they learn, they adapt. Your girlfriend is not just talking to you about this. She's talking to all her other friends about this. She's talking to them about your size. She's talking to them about, you know, she asked you what you were thinking the other day and you told her and she couldn't believe it. And now she's scared of you. I feel like she just went back on everything. Yes, of course, it's something that's going to happen, but it is still a responsibility of people to interact with others in an honest way. 1.4 billion pounds of cheese. Damn.
I think that these conversations devolve too much into, you know, what society isn't giving men, what women aren't giving men. And it's a criticism of everybody else, but what men can do to help their own situation. So I want to at least try to, you know, touch on what men can do individually, if anything, to maybe better their position and be less lonely. What are some of the thoughts that men might be having that become behaviors that drive their own loneliness, that isolate themselves? And then, you know, of course, maybe touch on some of the cultural things that drive this issue as well.
Okay, well, thanks for being here, and I'm sure we'll get into it as we go. Boots, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. The panel was framed as sort of a like, is this something that's important to talk about? And I think that when we're talking about like societal prescriptions and stuff, like, no, it's not important to talk about. It is really important for every individual man, obviously, but as like a broader, like, every sort of loneliness cannot be like picked apart and said, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. It's like, it's pointless to do it like that. So like, yes, men should be less lonely. No, it's not something that we can discuss with broad prescriptions. And also, I think that a lot of the talk about men's loneliness.
Yeah, I think that that's obviously insane. Like there are systemic issues that are causing these problems in the first place. So obviously, when there's systemic issues, you can have broad prescriptions that are going to affect the system. That's obviously true. But like, if we're gonna put it on a scale where we're looking at like global warming versus men's loneliness issues, obviously they're not the biggest deal on the planet, but they affect social structures pretty hardcore. They affect like what we're doing for men in the future. We can see the changes that we've made with feminism affecting men today, and that these are affecting them negatively. And so I think that this is just as important as any other social movement that we have, especially when like the amount that people talk about trans people and crap like that. Like, damn, dude, we got a lot more than that suffering and committing suicide at high rates currently. You know, men built this country for all of you. And now they're struggling for it. Now they're paying the price for it. And none of you care. You're all so happy to live in the country, live in the world, live in the beautiful society that men built for you. And you're not even grateful. Show some respect. Show some gratitude. Be appreciative. And get back in the kitchen.
Relies on women being the solution to their loneliness. And that's something that really bothers me. That you do, Wick, actually. So
We'll talk about
Yeah, you're welcome. Now make me a sandwich.
it as we go. Fair enough. I am always a welcoming of criticism. But let's get to the other guests before we get into it. Brittany, Simon, hello.
Hi. Okay, I've talked about this at length on my channel, and I really do think that at the end of the day, we're dealing with tool gathering, the tools we give ourselves when we're being introspective, and then the
Taquez, I know you'll make me a sandwich. I'll make you a sandwich too, brother, because we appreciate each other. We know what we've done. We know what we've had to go through.
tools we gather from society. So it's an individual problem, and it's always a society problem. It's
Tomfoolery Show, the best AI president videos are the ones where they play video games together. I recommend. Yes, I've seen those. Those are good. Those are a lot of good. You might be a little bit far behind if you're just now talking about the AI presidential videos. You might be about 5-10 minutes behind right now. But yeah, I agree.
always both, because both impact the other. You can't have one without the other. So ultimately, it's not women's fault. It's not men's fault. It's society's fault, which I guess you could fit into those
True.
two categories if we're going to ignore
True. No, I am 100. This is exactly what I always say. When people are like, well, why is this women's responsibility? I'm like, it's not women's responsibility. It's society's responsibility. This is just like when people say, well, why is it white people's responsibility to fix black people's problems? It's not white people's responsibility. It's society's responsibility. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about like the structures that kind of reinforce these systems in the first place. Those are the things that are going to be responsible for this, and those are going to be the things that have to fix it. In 5 minutes, they'll know they're behind. Yep.
their genders. And then it's the individual's responsibility to seek out their joy through gathering tools. And I don't think people are as motivated as they claim to be. I think they just like to complain.
People do like to complain. I agree. And I thank you for being here.
What kind of sandwich would you make me? Government cheese sandwich.
And we will get into it as we go. Next up, friend of the channel, Ahrelevant. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Wick. So on the topic of male loneliness, I think there is individual things that we can do, like on an interpersonal level and things like that, but I also think there's societal solutions. I think there are things that we can do as a society to help bolster men, to be able to foster not only deeper friendships between men, but also women, and also to help those friendships not erode. It's a multitude of different things, so I'm not
going Izzy, I'm like 90% sure nobody here knows what a government cheese sandwich is. I was sure. One's in chat if you know what government cheese is. One's in chat if you already know what government cheese is. Y'all are lying. I don't believe you. You freaking white folks, I don't believe y'all for a second. Y'all don't know what government cheese is. You have no idea what it is. It's a, it's like, so that's what American cheese was. Because American cheese was initially a, like, a super cheap type of cheese that the, I don't remember if the government sent it out or what, but they like, it was made for SNAP. Yes, exactly. It was made for SNAP, and it was, that's why it's American cheese, because it was made as like a like Kraft Singles American cheese and crap like that is much better than the government cheese from back in the day. The government cheese from back in the day was horrible. It wasn't even cheese. So yeah, it was like plastic. Like it was horrible. So yeah.
going to get too specific until we really get into it, but
I would take a Cuban. That's it. If I'm gonna get any sandwich, I'm gonna take a Cuban sandwich for sure. That's where I'm going.
I think that it's multifaceted. I think there's a lot of prescriptions there.
Okay. I guess I'll just start off with asking, right? Like, why don't women have any responsibility here?
I'll just start off by asking, why are women? Government cheese is a commodity cheese that was controlled by the United States government from World War II to the early 1980s. Like traditional processed American cheese, it consists of a variety of cheese types and other ingredients such as emulsifiers blended together, and may be made of any cheddar cheese, Colby cheese, cheese curd, or granular cheese. In short, people really hated it, so saying that makes as much sense as government cheese means something is truly a terrible idea. Does the government have a stash of cheese? Hundreds of feet below the ground in Missouri, there are hundreds of thousands of pounds of American cheese, deep in converted limestone mines. Caves kept perfectly at 36 degrees Fahrenheit store stockpiles of government-owned cheese, compromising the country's 1.4 billion pounds of surplus cheese. Damn. That's a whole lot of cheese. 1.4 billion pounds of cheese. Damn. Send it to the freaking Chinese, dude. Get us out of debt.
Right, Boots, you mentioned that women shouldn't be a part of the solution, shouldn't be a solution. Well, why not? Why don't they have any kind of responsibility?
Because somebody else is not responsible for your feelings. You're responsible for your feelings. If men rely on women to reinforce them and help them form their identity, that's not women's problem. That's
Wait, this is... Bro, what the hell? Look, women cannot do feminism without men. They could not have people fighting for them without men. And we're not just talking about, like, government rights and crap like that. We're talking about the way that men treat women. We're talking about social roles. We're talking about things that actually improved the state of women's lives. We're talking about all sorts of things that actually helped women. They couldn't have done it without men. Literally, they couldn't have done it without men. There were throughout most of feminism, there were more men fighting for those things than there were women. There were more men who had, like, you know, degrees and were these very liberal dudes studying this crap and understanding the systems before there was internet that were actually out there fighting for these things. You go back to the polling on whether or not women should get the right to vote. 30% of women wanted the right to vote, okay? 30% of women wanted the right to vote, but they still had a vote on it to see what people thought, and it ended up with like I forget what it was, but almost like 70-something% of Americans said yes, while 30% of American women wanted it. Why? Because men were the ones who were actually fighting for these things. Men were the ones who were actually in favor of women getting rights, and it was tomfool with idiot takes again. I'm sorry that I'm not just like making it up as I go. I actually read history and go with what the consensus says on these things. I don't go find some like random person on the internet and see what they had to say about it and then just go with that. I go with, like, you know, what generally like school history books would say and curriculums would say and crap like that, but it's all right. But yes, like, women have been able to progress because men wanted to help, and if men were these people who had all of the power and controlled everything, then, like, you know, then obviously women getting to where they are today is because men were also fighting for those things, and men agreed with what it was that that feminists wanted. And it doesn't make sense for people to turn around and be like, well, this isn't anybody else's problem. It's just for men. Men, why don't you figure it out? No, not my deal.
something that men have to handle on their own.
What do the rest of you think about
Was
this?
this- Oh, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with this. I think that we live pretty symbiotically, and unfortunately, even women, their visions of themselves is influenced by men's perception of them, right? If men in mass are believing women are like whores for having a body count of more than one and things like that, we can't just go like, well, women, that's your fault if you feel bad about that. No, our perception of each other influences not only our self-esteem, but our perception of ourselves and other people around us, like our mothers, our sisters, and things like that, our colleagues. So I think that we're all going to play a role. And that kind
Yeah, this is an easy concession to make if you're a feminist. Yeah, it's weird because I thought, patriarchy affected both men and women. Like, feminism's about both sides. Like, what happened to all that? What happened to it being about everybody.
Kind of thing. I guess it depends on how, right? I would never agree with the idea that it's a woman's responsibility to make like a man feel more loved if they don't love them or anything like that. But like, if there are roles that women can play to make men feel a little bit more open with sharing or discussing their feelings, which is absolutely going to result in better friendships and things like that, then yeah, women absolutely play a role.
Sure, and like they can play that role, but that this is ultimately men's problem, and this is something that men should sort out.
People wouldn't be able to read if Christians didn't know how. Okay, hold on. That is a very different thing. When I was saying that, like, you know, women should be grateful to men, I was just joking about that. That was a freaking joke. But as to like men fighting for women's rights, men fighting for women's equality, men wanting women to have like similar social roles and getting them social respect, getting rid of people talking to them in sexist ways, treating them in sexist ways, like all of those things are things that, those are changes that men had to make. Your jokes are so bad, everybody else enjoyed it. They all thought it was funny. It's just you and what, I don't know what his name is, Clev or whatever his name is. You guys are too autistic to get jokes if I'm not screaming and yelling and tearing my shirt off at the same time. But my jokes are pretty deadpan, and you gotta have some social awareness to get them. But the fact that, like, yes, as Ahrelevant said, we live symbiotically, allowing other people, the other people around you, to live a better quality of life is beneficial to you as well. And if patriarchy affects both men and women, and what we're all fighting against is the patriarchy, then it makes sense that making it to where men who suffer because of patriarchy are going to be lifted out of that as well. The social norms throughout history where men were supposed to carry all the weight, they were supposed to be in charge, they were supposed to pay the bills, they were supposed to do all the jobs, and then they're supposed to commit all the suicide. Like, sure, this is cool stuff and all, but maybe not so great when we're talking about some sort of equality. Maybe if we actually want everybody to live in some sort of even-keeled nature, we're going to have to do something about this. And when people talk about like feminists being sexist and hating men and crap like that, this is literally what they imagine. This is literally what they imagine them saying. This is exactly the type of rhetoric and the type of things that they would imagine them hearing. And when I complain about feminists consistently saying, oh, well, no, feminism's about freedom. Feminism's just about equality for all. Bull crap it is. Feminism's about women. Now, there are intersectional feminists who are obviously going to care about more than just women, and they fight for more than just women. But feminism as a whole? No, hell no.
Another thing is, there's a difference between women changing themselves because of an act that men are doing upon them, and women deciding not to associate with men and them feeling something. So it's like a positive versus negative thing. So like women don't have any responsibility to do this. Just like
women just decided to be in the kitchen, bro. Women just decided to be in the kitchen and to be married off and to not have jobs and to not be able to get raises and move up in companies and not own companies. They decided not to run for government office and to run good campaigns to where they could actually win once in a while.
Unless men were doing something to women to hurt them, which they often do, they wouldn't have any responsibility to stop saying anything. Like if women feel bad because the vast majority of men think that women's body count being above 1 is like a really bad thing, like that's not something that necessarily women need to change in men, and like men need to cooperate with women there. That's something that is like a problem within you. If you're lonely because of that, that's a problem within you still. So
when we talk about these things being systemic, men are more likely to be they don't get socialized very early on. They don't get taught social cues very early on, whereas women do. Women are taught to be pretty, they're taught to be sexy, they're taught to be people pleasers, they're taught to make other people happy, they're taught, you know, to light up a room, to smile, to, you know, to do all of these things to be people pleasers, and that is a really good way to socialize people early on, to where you start to understand cues from other people, you start to look for those, you start to understand what it is that others expect from you, whereas men are not taught these things. And then they get into playing video games, they get into internet communities, they get into you know, internet forums and Discord groups and all of these other things, where they are not having person-to-person communications with people. And then by the time they realize they need to be doing these things, normally around like middle school, high school areas, they're so far behind other people who are already doing these things. They are stunted and have to play catch up to get back to where everybody else is. Women aren't all doing this, but they're doing these things at much higher rates. They are socialized at much higher rates to where they're capable of getting along within society, whereas men at much lower rates are doing these things, learning these things, and being able to get along within society. And so these are systemic structures based on sex that are pushing different groups in different directions. On top of that, when I was younger, yes, I was the freaking king of the jungle, and I was a man, and I was supposed to shake your hand really tightly and then, you know, punch you in the face afterwards, and then we'd go out for beers and celebrate, and it was awesome. But that, like, the encouragement that I got when I was younger did not exist very long after I left high school. And so now kids who grew up after me did not get the same thing. And you guys can meet my little brother, you can meet the kids that he went to high school with. These are all very different kids. They all seem like they all have autism. They're all very, very stunted in their social growth. But women their age are not. Women their age are not stunted, and they are still very personable people with high social IQs. And this is like, they all, you know, the girls didn't all grow up watching anime and playing video games all day, and the boys did. And yeah, now they all have a lot less going for them. But the women, like, they had feminism, they had, you know, girl bossing, and, you know, you go girl, and girl power, and all of this other crap, really encouraging them, really pushing them, really doing a lot for them to feel the encouragement that I felt when I was young, and that I was a young man growing up, that just doesn't exist for both sides currently. And so these are systemic problems, these are cultural problems, these are societal problems that we have to fix. Not only that, but then when we start talking about the dating game, when you get older, women still have similar expectations to what they had when I was younger, where they want men to pay for the first date, they want them to make more money, they want them to have a nice car, they want them to be the breadwinner, they want them to, you know, wear the pants, they want them to do all of these things that men were not socialized to do. Men were not raised to do these things. They're not bred the same anymore. Yet women still have those same expectations because they're taught that they're supposed to have those expectations. That's still what's in the movies. That's still what's in the TV shows. That's still what they see all over the place. They still dream of some guy sweeping them off their feet and then taking them off and pampering them and taking care of them. And those guys don't exist at the same high rates that they did back in the day. When women are making more money, graduating college at higher rates, getting better grades in high school, they are now the ones that men should expect to be the breadwinners. Men should expect them to sweep them off their feet. Men should expect them to come over and pay for the first date and open doors for them, and, you know, all of this crap. But those changes are not happening. Those changes are not, we did not switch to that, even though that would make sense based on the systemic structures. That's not what's happening right now. And so we have things backwards, where there's this like very small group of men that can actually meet this criteria. It's not that small, but it's small enough to where we're going to end up having a huge group of men who are lonely, who aren't able to fit into the norms. They're not able to, you know, fit what the typical woman looks for. And the changes that we made for men, where men have to stop doing this to women, talking to women this way, thinking of women that way, and belittling women, and all of these other things, like men had to make all of these changes for the way that they engage with women, but women didn't really make those changes for the way they engage with men. And now we have a bunch of other problems once you're out of high school and you're already stunted and you already don't understand what the hell is going on. Now you're even more confused when you can't get a job that makes way more than all of these women who want you to be the breadwinner. There's a lot of problems that go into this, and these are all based on the changes that we made very quickly to society.
I think people should be resilient towards like outside factors and people's opinion of you, but like I feel like this is a little bit too optimistic for how resilient people can be. I think that like the world where in which people view let's just talk about men specifically, view women's body count as the example gave above 1, you're like low value. After that, I could say, yeah, it's like ultimately women's responsibility to be able to solve that, but obviously there's some truth to that because like they're feeling the feeling and you can like kind of rise up against that and like buck that. But I think for the most part, what I'd say is we all should be rowing in the same direction. There's clearly a problem. The problem is unjustified to cause such a issue inside of young women's lives.
Is this actually a problem though? Like I do want to kind of drill into that because I've seen a lot of takes, maybe not necessarily for many of you, but there's been a lot of people who say this actually isn't a problem. This is just another symptom of male privilege. They're facing the same struggles everyone else is. But they're deciding that suddenly it's some epidemic because suddenly they're facing a struggle that women and other demographics have faced throughout time, right? So
loneliness,
yeah,
is what we're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
So to my knowledge, okay.
And does loneliness is loneliness just a thing like romantically, or is it platonically as well? Do men have trouble, connecting with other men for some reason? Right, that's another question I'd like to address as well.
I'm pretty sure objectively they do. I'm pretty sure the stats are out there that most people.
Why do you think that's the case?
Probably because of lowering social capabilities for men, lower desire for like I think in general a lot of young people's social skills are going in the shitter because we're primarily stating on like social media and stuff like that. We're not talking and interacting with each other as much as we used to. I think that there's not very good outlets for men to be able to learn how to build social skills once they lose them. If you're like me and you play video games 16 hours a day, it's very hard to get caught up on your social skills when you're in your later years, and a lot of men tend to.
But that's your problem, Ahrelevant. That's your problem. Get over it, bro. Quit whining about it. Why is that this chick's problem? Why would she have to worry about that? That's not her problem. She didn't make you play video games. She didn't turn you into a loser. You turned yourself into a loser, bro.
Live the neat lifestyle, so there's going to be a lot of men who are lonely.
I would go even a step further, actually. I would say that people don't actually know what they want, so when they're given opportunities to meet people or socialize, they don't even know how to continue that friendship or relationship because I'm not sure that they don't know what they're actually looking for, which is probably to be seen, to be understood, to be humanized. I can't tell you how many of my YouTube friends love you all, but we're chronically at home, at least I am. How many of them are like, I want friends, I don't have friends, and they don't respond to emails, they don't respond to tweets, they don't actually type, like, I love them, they're great, everyone's great, I love you all. But like, you have to make the effort, and the effort is it's exhausting. And so I think when people say like I'm lonely, I think what they're often saying is like I don't feel seen. And then the question is, who do I go get that seen from? Is it my family, so platonic? Is it romantic, so sexual or romantic partners? Who do I actually need this from? And I think accepting, at least if you're in my category of person, like I know I'm not going to feel fully seen unless you're my romantic partner, because then you can see me in all facets, right? Like I can't do the same things with my mom that I can do with my husband, right? So for me, I would argue that we need to be accepting that we're not going to be fully seen by everybody, and we should be grateful for the parts of us that do and are seen, because it is so rare even in that.
I don't disagree with anything that was just said. Also, congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you don't think that, like, let's say, if you want to build friendships, you have to be vulnerable, right? You have to put some, like you said, some effort into that. Maybe if you want some deeper friendships, like a closer, male friend, you kind of have to be open to deep conversations, things that are beyond just like the surface level, right? You don't think that it's like a fear of men showing their emotions to other men to be like, to risk being seen weak by other men?
Yeah, I agree. I think that is the case for a lot of people, even with women. I mean, even for myself, I do suffer from a little toxic masculinity, like to make a little joke out of it. But to be serious, I do put on a little bit of a front usually when I'm with people.
TOMFOOLERY, I really think you can be a mega gamer and watch whatever TV shows as long as you go to parties throughout the 4 years of high school on weekends, plus finding a few bros hang/game with. Yes and no. I feel like you're like, yes, that is possible. But at the same time, people who are prioritizing video games, the people who they are in like voice chats with and discords with, that like those are the people that they want to hang out with, they start to become like socially awkward. They don't want to go out to a party. They don't want to go out and hang out with groups of people. They have they'll feel that's like the worst place for them. They don't want to go out in a place that's going to make them super uncomfortable. It's not autism. They're not all autistic. Lots of them are just like super socially awkward and aren't learning these social cues at an early enough age. So like, I grew up with 4 brothers and sisters. Okay, I was around people all the time. I was always with big friends groups. We were always hanging out in big groups. Even if I was playing video games, I was playing video games with 4 other people on my Nintendo 64. We always had 4 controllers for a bunch of different people to play on. We had a ping pong table. We had a foosball table. Like, you know, we had a pool. Like, me and my friends were always doing all of these things together, and there were a bunch of girls who wanted to come over and play these games as well, and go to the pool and all of this other crap. I was on a football team. I was on a basketball team. I was on a soccer team. I was on a baseball team. Like, I was always building camaraderie with other people. I was always building bonds with them. I was always going to their house. They were always coming over to my house. Like, those are things that just are not as common today, because you can have contact with those people without them coming over. You can build contact with people and start to build a bond with them without them coming over. But if you're not having the personal interactions, you're not learning a lot of the things that I learned. You're not learning about, like, you know, how to act with somebody right in front of you. You're not learning about body language. You're not learning about, like, what's a safe distance from somebody. You're not learning about facial cues and facial expressions. You're not learning about like all sorts of other things that we all were socialized into pretty quickly. If you're around my age, like, we were all easily socialized into. The people who got into these things at earlier ages, because I wasn't playing video games at a super young age, like, yeah, we're just like, there was so much that they're missing out on that we had.
Because I'm not here to be vulnerable when I just meet you. I'm not here to play that game. But I think people don't know boundaries. They don't know how to socialize. They make mistakes and trauma dump. But also, men are told not to show their feelings. Men are told that it's a vulnerability nobody wants to deal with. And I think that is something that culturally needs to shift. But the blame can't be on women, because we're already doing that. We already did it. So men need to catch up and decide, are you okay with being vulnerable even if you get hurt? Are you okay with having messy friend breakups? Are you okay with people maybe, you know, I don't know what boys do, but do you guys like spread rumors about each other? Is that just girls? There are consequences, you know? So yeah, so are you okay with taking the chance on people and saying, like, I'm going to give you myself, I'm going to give you my vulnerabilities, please don't hurt me. And then they probably will. Like, you know what I mean? Dr. K says that you have to have a few messy relationships to figure out what you need and what you want. And sometimes it's the same in friendship.
So wouldn't it be like a muscle, like working out in the gym, like just kind of build that resilience to, you know, everything you described, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically rejection, right? Like rejection,
Yes.
either, you know, in the stages of, like, you know, a dating thing or a pre-relationship, or somewhere even in the middle of a relationship, when somebody decides, like, hey, you know, this friendship or this romantic relationship isn't working out. Isn't it kind of sifting through that? Isn't that like an internal process that men can improve upon? Or
I love rejection. I swear, if I ever read a book in my 40s, it's going to be on rejection. I think rejection is the key to consent. It's the key to introspection. It's the key to knowing the self. Be able to reject yourself, the bad parts of yourself. Be ready to reject the bad parts of other people you don't want to deal with. Be able to take rejection from people to validate their consent. They don't want to be friends with you. Cool. That's life, right? Like, we have to understand that rejection is a tool that the universe or people are giving us to better know ourselves and what we need. But you have to go out there and get rejected, which is annoyingly painful. It's very frustrating, putting in time, effort, having so many friendships. But they, you know, long life friendships do exist. You just have to find the right people you were meant to know for that long, right? Look, I don't know how long I'll know Ahrelevant, but I'm happy to know him now. But who knows if we'll know each other at 50?
Yeah, who knows?
The issue I'm having here, right? And this is an issue I have, and this isn't particular to this discussion. This is an issue whenever this gets discussed that I see that I personally have kind of a, it's a pet peeve. And that's the solutions, right? Given the advocacy that we give is just get out there, meet more people, right? Exercise your muscle. Don't be scared of rejection. These are kind of very anodyne things. And I think men are actually doing these things. Like, men didn't suddenly stop. I would disagree with Ahrelevant that most men are living the neat lifestyle. I don't think most men are. I think most men are out there. They're trying their best. They're putting themselves out there. But there has been something, right? And I can't really put my finger on what, but there has been a shift in the last 10, 20 years where more and more men are reporting, hey, I don't have any friends or romantic partners. And I think every time we talk about
Tom was rejected by Brittany at first. Yeah, see, and this is what I talk about, where like when you're not sure with women, just like be around, but just don't like actually engage with them at all. You just totally ignore them. Playing hard to get from men works as well, guys, and you just totally just ignore them. They'll come back to you. Okay, that's how that works. Is they will always seek you out because you're too cool for them now. This is how it works. I can teach you guys the ways. All right.
About it. We only talk about it through the pull yourself up by the bootstraps, just be a better person type deal. And I don't know if that's fair. I think that there are societal issues at play, and I want to kind of maybe focus on them a little bit if we can.
Yeah, can I be honest with you? I think the society's issues is that we are not promoting introspection. We are not telling people, why do you even want friends in the first place? Why do you want them? Are you feeding a need of loneliness like you are masturbating? Like, what are you feeding? What do you need? Why do you want a friendship? Because a lot of people are happy to settle into the friendships that they are forced into in their school grade. You know, you're placed next to somebody in class, bam, you're friends for life, right? Some of us didn't have that. I was homeschooled. I had to go out and find my friends. I had to have a lot of adult friends. I had to figure out, like, who are the people that I'm going to know for a long time? And then I had to make a decision about who to pick and choose. Who do I have energy for? How many of these amazing people am I actually going to make a priority in my life? At 2 a.m. when they call me, am I going to do it for everyone in my phone book? Girl, no. I have to pick and choose. Society as a whole is not telling people that they should figure out why they think they should have friends in the first place, or romantic partners, or anything. We're just assumed to have them because that's what TV shows. People have friends. But what does that mean?
Well, the other thing too is that
Well, also, all of the Republican parents are afraid that if a boy talks to their daughter while she's in elementary school, they're going to call that boy a pedophile and a groomer. So it kind of makes it hard for guys to do anything.
men's expectations too high of like both friendships and romantic relationships. That's the other thing too, just in general.
Well, can you elaborate on that? What do you mean? Are they too high?
Well, I mean, so if we're going back to romantic, like are men's standards of women too high, right? If we're going like to friendships, you know, are men's expectations of other men too high, right? Should we manage those expectations? How much?
Can you give us an example of what you would consider too high of an expectation, both romantically and platonically?
So, well, let's go just from the superficial, what we could see. You know, somebody's looks, like romantically, attractiveness.
What? Bro, there's people who are gonna find all sorts of people attractive. I don't think that that's that big of a deal. Like, I don't think that that's something that's really hindering people. Especially, I think guys have it a lot easier than women, for sure. Guys have it so much easier than women do, because guys are not judged on their looks as harshly as women are.
Are you talking about like when men talk about the kinds of women that they want to date, and they're
Not
like,
even talking about, just an internal process. Like, I want this type of woman. I want her to look this certain way. I want her to dress a certain way. Like, how, you know, you can, you know,
Yeah,
go down the list.
yeah, I typically don't fall in line with that idea, because I think I see the red pill do a similar thing towards women. I think if you give somebody the opportunity to create a Build-A-Bear type of person, they're going to create like some weird person that sounds super specific and shit.
Wait a second. Wait a second. A Build-A-Bear type of person. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, I had a review of Brittany Simon's video where we were talking about her wanting a Build-A-Bear boyfriend, and that she just wants to be able to like put all of the perfect parts in there and make this guy you know, the perfect person for her. And that like, really, that's not how we do things in reality. We prioritize some things, and then as we get more of one thing, we care less about the other things. And like, that's really, it's never the perfect person who's got like all things up at 10. They might have this at 10, so you care about this a little bit less, and there's always something keeping you there that gives you chemistry and makes you happy. So we kept bringing up the Build-A-Bear boyfriend. And then when I talked to her about the review yesterday, we were talking about we had some issues with the editing, so we have to re-edit it and upload it again tomorrow. So we're going to give that another shot, but it'll be up soon if you haven't seen it. But yeah, in the conversation, we talk about the Build-A-Bear boyfriend numerous times as well. So
like that, as meets grass, somebody walks up to them, they're nice to them and shit like.
Tomfoolery show the looks thing is one variable in the exacerbation of dating apps, since they say I have nothing else to base it on, and the bio is probably a cut and paste lie, but overall Riz overlooks. Well, I mean, yeah, if we're talking about dating apps, yes, dating apps are pretty much all about looks. Like, dating apps are majority looks, and that's definitely true. But I don't think when you're actually like building relationships with people or meeting people in person, I don't think that looks are nearly as big of a deal as lots of people make it out to be. I was there. Tom drank the bubble soap water. He was simping for Brittany. Base. Let's go.
That they're gonna vibe, and a relationship will almost certainly be on the horizon. I think for the most part, if you just talk to people, they're gonna sound like the most vain, shallow pieces of shit in the world. But if you
Tom's vocal fry thing can be brutal. I don't think hold on. I don't have that much vocal fry. Like, okay, damn it, dude. I talk like I speak softly, so I don't know what to do. I'm not talking like this the entire time and trying to talk like a freaking person who smoked too many cigarettes or something like that. Like, it's just at the end of sentences, I sound a little bit more like a valley girl, where at the end of my sentences, I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean?
You actually see them walk around and interact with people, that tends to go away pretty fast. I think men are no different.
Yeah, if I may, I just talked about this on my channel. I'm a big fan of Build-A-Bear relationships and life in general. Though my work is centered heavily on the individual. I mean, it literally is centered around it. So my niche is particular. But like, I am a 34-year-old woman who finally got married and found this person and was picky. And everyone told me that, like, why are you doing this? Like, you've had people propose to you, you've had people interested in you. And I'm like, nope, I'm looking for a very specific consciousness, like a very specific human on this planet that I'm going to grow old with. Because I'm like monogamous and I don't get divorced and unless abuse. And so like, I'm very specific, right? I'm going to tie myself to this human. And I finally found this human. Of course, through a Discord, because like we're all fucking nerds, we don't leave the house. And so like it makes sense. But I found this person and I can't replace him. Like, I think that's what's important here. I can't replace this consciousness. Like, I can find people I'm also compatible with on the same level somewhere on the planet, but I can't replace this person that I've connected with now. And I think that, yes, you can form a relationship easily with people. I've been in plenty of myself. Oh, we have this in common. We're connecting, the chemistry good, the sex good, everything good, but it's not enough to build a long life relationship where you don't then feel lonely in a 30-year marriage. Like, do we want, depending on your goals, right? If you want a 30, 40-year-old marriage where loneliness isn't felt, then you need to see that consciousness for who they are. Do you want a marriage where you, like, people who are married feel lonely? So what are we really aiming for? And I think most people are aiming for feels good in the moment, good enough, I'll settle. Why am I lonely 20 years into my marriage? Because you never loved the consciousness. You loved the feeling you had when you first met.
Okay, well, so I think we all agree that having boundaries isn't the same thing as like, unrealistic expectations from for a partner, right? Like,
I don't know what's an unrealistic I don't really know if I believe in them. Like, what does that mean? Do we mean in terms of values? Do we mean in terms of like, I'm gonna have a billionaire? Like, be single. Nothing's wrong with being single. If you want those,
Yeah, it could be socioeconomic. I mean, we see the red pill videos about like women wanting somebody to make it $950K a year. I mean, that's an unrealistic expectation, right? It's the same thing if like men want like these supermodel virgin women who with like zero body count until they're 25 years old or whatever. Like, these are unrealistic expectations. Of course, they're really obvious ones, but they're not the same thing as like, let's say, like a boundary, which is everything that you set out.
I think you're allowed to say, I want a guy who makes $900K a year. And then I think you're allowed to say, I'm okay if I never get married. I think the issue is having the expectation and then being upset you're still single and alone, versus I think the right way to go about it is to say, I want these things. And if I don't get them, that's also great. So that's where I want society to get to.
I just want to be clear, right? So what you're alluding to, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that men have too high of expectations when it comes to romantic. Your take, Tegma?
Yeah, I think a lot of men do.
Can you
fair.
describe where that
Yeah.
like where that
But I also
is?
think
Like,
that
what
men
he's bringing you
men
to
also
that
have
conclusion?
unrealistic expectations of themselves in relationships as well, like how to conduct themselves in relationships.
And I also want to add that I don't think it's necessarily unrealistic expectations, but I think it's a lot of entitlement towards the things that you think you deserve.
Like, what
It's
do you
not
mean
just
by that? Can you
expectations.
elaborate on that? What do men think
I'm
they deserve
sorry.
that they don't?
But- Well, like you yourself were talking about how everybody deserves to have somebody to love. I don't think that's true. I don't. Why do you deserve that?
I think
What
that
if
on
you're
a
a really fucking
baseline,
shitty person?
people
Like,
deserve certain things, right? People deserve, right, to be healthy, happy, and have some level of social interaction. I think that's a deserving thing. I think that people should have that. I think that yes, you can act in certain ways which exclude you from it, and no one should be obligated to give you these things. But when we talk about deserve, yes, I do think people deserve to be happy in general, right? I just
That's a
don't.
different thing than being feeling entitled to a relationship, though, right?
Well,
like that. Now you're asking for somebody
yes,
else to
but
do
I think
something for you.
yeah, but I don't think it's I don't think it's an out of pocket thing for anyone, a man or a woman, to say, "Hey, I want someone to love me."
But like, you have to work on being somebody that's worth loving, right? That's another.
Well,
You're
so
not
then
entitled
you're
to love, unfortunately. I mean, like,
so yeah.
Ted Bundy isn't entitled to love, right?
Do we
Like,
think the average guy is Dan Bundy?
no, we don't.
Okay, so then I
but
think
if what the
Wick
average guy
getting
is not something that
but-
women want, it's not women's responsibility to
well,
compromise
why
themselves.
is the average guy not what women want?
Because men
think
don't want them. The average guys don't want the women. Men never liked that I worked and made more money than them. But I'm happy to date an average guy. I'm the breadwinner. My guy doesn't work. I didn't care. But he didn't care either. So these average guys care that I make money. And that's the
Sure.
problem.
Do you think that the average guy is not getting a romantic relationship because the women make more money than him?
I think
That
they
could be in a relationship with?
they have a preset idea of what a man is. And
Yep.
if they fall victim to that prescription, then any woman they meet in the modern world that is more educated, making more money, has a more stable job, doesn't need him for the same things, he's going to feel inadequate. But the dilemma is that like women want comfort. I want an introspective partner. I want someone I can talk to every day. I want somebody who's thoughtful and considerate. I don't need somebody who makes money. I make money. I need somebody who can do other things that I can't do. And so for a modern woman like myself, like I never cared that he had a Bugatti. I cared that he could, watch anime with me. We're on 250 episodes of One Piece right now, guys. We're killing it. That's what I'm looking for, right? So I think a modern woman. Go ahead.
So I personally agree, I guess, with half of this. I think everybody is perpetuating these things. I think everybody perpetuates shitty stereotypes about women. I think everybody perpetuates shitty stereotypes about men. Right? I've been shamed for how little money I've made by women. I literally had a conversation yesterday with a woman who said she would never date a bum nigga because he makes less money than her. It's just he's a loser.
And that's her construct, right?
Yeah,
like, he's been told like that's how I'm. Yeah,
absolutely,
she's failing too.
right?
Yeah.
And so the idea in my mind isn't that like men have these things and they need to just fix it. It's that we all do. We all kind of have certain ideas, certain demons we need to battle with that tell us certain things. Maybe this guy is a loser because he works at McDonald's, maybe whatever. We got to fight that, right? And that's men and women. That's where I think the societal prescriptions come in. Hopefully things like media depictions and things like that of not showing that every single person who's a bus driver is a loser and they're a respectable member of society, man or woman, right?
It's true, but I think that we have to actually like take into account that people have certain lifestyles that they've become accustomed to. And by dating somebody that is like less financially stable, they may not be willing to sign up for a lifestyle with that type of person. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Like I think it's okay. I like when Relly's talking about this, he's talking about people shaming other people for how much money they make and trying to emasculate them based on how much money they make. That's one thing. But if we're talking about somebody just having a preference for a certain class of person or somebody who makes a certain amount of money, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's perfectly fine. Tomfoolery show, less financially stable is one thing, but lower income alone, that pressure is just never gonna be put on women. Yeah, sure, but neither are like the beauty expectations that are currently put on women, those will never be put on men. Like, there are tons of expectations that are currently put on women that will never be put on men. And yeah, it just is what it is. Like, plus on top of that, like, when you say that will never be put on women, what you're saying is that they'll never like shame them for those sorts of things. But most people date within their socioeconomic class. Like, they're not millionaires, or not out here dating or marrying cashiers from Walmart. Like, that's just not happening. The vast majority of people, like well over 70-something%, are dating people within their socioeconomic class. I think the beauty expectations put on men are understated, but the value of female sexuality is 1,000 times. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there are no expectations of men, but for the most part, you can dress well and like shave and get a haircut and you're Gucci. Like, that's pretty simple. You go buy the clothes once, you get a haircut once a month, shave a couple times a week, take a shower every couple days, you're good. Like, that's all you got to do. Whereas women, they got a whole lot of stuff they got to do on a daily basis, sometimes a couple of times a day. The expectations for them are just, yeah, it's way more than what's expected of men when it comes to aesthetics.
This is where I'm getting the societal prescription, because we're all part of the problem.
I agree. And if you have a more modern, like liberal Democrat, like very specific college educated relationships that some of my friends have, you would both be working, you'd both be putting 50-50, you would both be doing something different, while the man is still sort of being a gentleman, opening car doors, buying dinner. But it's more of like an illusion, versus in my relationship, again, it's like, I don't care who pays the bills as long as we're a team aiming for a goal. In my brother's relationship, he's the breadwinner, she's the homemaker. Like, every relationship is Build-A-Bear if you really know who you are and what you want, and then you can go for it. Because honestly, millions of people on this planet, one person is compatible. Where are they though? And are you going to meet them in this lifetime? Because this is a very different question.
So what you just said right there, millions of people, a whole bunch of people on the world, on the planet, and there's somebody compatible with you. I think that's what Wick was getting at when he's saying like everybody deserves love. For the most part, as long as you're not a Ted Bundy, right? Yeah. For the most part,
we're not talking Hitler here. We're talking
exactly,
the average man,
average dude, right? You should be able to find somebody who likes you. It's the same with women. You should be able to find somebody who likes you. You can be quirky, you can be a little bit weird, you can be neurodivergent even with stuff like this. You should be able to find somebody that likes you for you. And the feeling of not being able to find that, when especially we can see other people so plainly, being able to do it so frequently, is even at like young ages.
Are they though? I would argue they are ending up in divorce. They are not happy, and they are not the people we should be emulating. Ending up in a relationship is not the goal.
Okay, wait. How can you? But hold on. How can we like? I think this is part of the problem too. People aren't willing to take risks on something that might not work in the future because, well, we don't want a temporary situationship. We want a forever-ship, a forever relationship. So they don't take any chances that might, right, fail. And I think that this is holding men and women back, right? Men and women. Like, this is kind of a non-.
What's a situationship? Is that just like where you don't know, like you're in like the middle ground where you just don't know what's going on really? You haven't like put a label on it or anything, and you're just kind of figuring it out. Yeah, okay.
Gender thing. That neither one is willing to kind of take any sort of risk. And that is, I think, a large part of the problem here is men, since we're talking about men today, right? Men, well, is this really going to work long term? I shouldn't even approach this person. I've been rejected so many times in the past. I've been told left, right, and center by people that I don't have the right facial structure, or I'm not rich enough. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not wealthy enough. I don't have the status I need. I need to get a job, a college education before I even attempt to get into a relationship. And so we put these artificial barriers in front of ourselves, and we think that, oh, I need to go through all these hoops before I even try anything. And I think that's a mistake.
I think you're self-rejecting. So in that sentence, you've given an example of a person, correct me if I'm wrong, who's already self-rejected themselves versus, and I would argue this is not for everyone, obviously, but if you're thinking long-term cohabitation, I would actually argue, like, I did a courting version of dating. Like, I courted my partner. We went on 1 to 3 dates or dated 1 to 3 months. And then we either cut it off or continued it. And we ended up married because the goal was not to get to the second date when there was already a red flag in the first date, right? The idea is talking about values, not who's going to do the dishes. We'll figure that out. I want to know values. What's the expectation of this relationship? Why are we cohabitating? So I do think a lot of people in my sphere actually settle into relationships with, they do the opposite, where they're like, well, I can't say no. Nobody lets me, I should just go on this date. I should be lucky this guy even likes me. And then they end up in a 2 to 3 year relationship that goes nowhere, and the guy ends up not being the person and she ends up not being the person. So I do think we're not going into relationships knowing why we want them in the first place. Why are we asking another human being with a whole life to integrate their life into mine? Why are we asking somebody to change their life for us? We should have a reason other than I'm lonely.
Well, one of the things I might push back on what you said is like the whole values thing, right? And versus the small acts of service that you do to prove those that those values are important to you. So if and overall the relationship, quite frankly. So if you have a partner that can't do the dishes, even though they need to do the dishes, like that's just a thing. Like your other partner's cooking, you do the dishes, right? You split it up 50-50 as much as you can. If you have a partner that's not pulling their weight with the small tasks, but they like proclaim they had all these values, right? They want, they value the relationship. Are they just paying like lip service to you?
Yeah, I think this is like missing the whole point though. This is like people that are in relationships already. The problem is not that like, you might be slightly unhappy in a relationship and you're a little bit picky here. It's that you're not able to form meaningful relationships in the first place. And I think a lot of that is, instead of searching for an actual person, you do what Brittany does, and you have this list of things that you think are the ideal person, basically objectifying the person that you're looking for, and making them somebody that is perfect for you instead of their own person.
Well, you don't eradicate their consciousness, right? You look for a consciousness that's similar to you and shares your values, right? So like my partner and I are very compatible. We're statistically like we're the same. We think the same. We dissect the same. When we watch YouTube videos or read Reddit stories, we're both coming to similar conclusions. That already is a green flag, right?
So why is I'm sorry. Finish up, but then I have a question. Finish up.
Versus other relationships, let's say you're dating someone and they're like, hey guys, like let's say the problem is this happened in my community. Somebody was like, my partner keeps putting their outside shoes on their bed sheets. Like they'll walk outside and take their outside shoes and put them on bed sheets. And I'm like, dump him. Don't even question it. If he's not going to change, dump him. And the question is, why am I so harsh about it? Because his character, his sense of lifestyle, he's too grown. It's okay for him to do this. This isn't immoral, but it's not a match. You know what I'm saying?
But what you're doing is like preaching this philosophy of selfishness that is the problem in the first place, is that people are selfish and they think that they're entitled to these sort of things.
Everything is selfishness. If you're not selfish, you failed as a human. Selfishness can be good or bad, right? You want healthy or unhealthy. Being selfish means being self-focused, knowing yourself and knowing what you want, and then being kind and joyful.
Okay, you don't have to do the whole spiel. I get it. Sorry. I didn't pay the $250 for that.
Okay, girly. Oh, man. I know you, girl. I don't know you.
All right. But wait, I'm confused then, Boots, because if you're saying that like being selfish isn't right, how I feel like that directly is at odds with what you said previously about nobody deserves anything or any relationship. Nobody, you don't deserve this kind of.
What Boots actually said was no one's entitled to anything. No one's entitled to a relationship lasting just by virtue of being, them wanting.
Okay, Boots is here. We can ask her what
where was it?
Being selfish is not being self-focused. WTF? It means that you're not totally self-focused, but sure, like being selfish means that you're looking for your own gains. You're looking for your own ends in that scenario. It doesn't mean in all things, right? Like if I want a girl with a big juicy booty, that I like in that ideal, yes, I'm being a bit selfish that that's the thing that I want, but it's it doesn't mean that I'm selfish across the board and that's all that I'm looking for, that there's nothing else there, or that I'm not giving in any other areas or anything like that. It just means that there are some things that I'm more worried about myself in and that I'm willing to draw boundaries on.
That's also that isn't really relevant to the the reason why is because what Brittany was talking about was how people have certain criteria that they might refuse to budge on. If you don't meet that criteria, kick rocks. You aren't entitled to being in a relationship with me. Kick rocks.
Yeah, but there's a difference between having like a few minimum standards of like the way that you want to be treated and the way that you want to relate to somebody versus literally building your own perfect human. And then
this is the problem that I had. So yeah, she's pointing out the issues that I went to go talk to Brittany about, is that yes, like the Build-A-Bear thing where you're kind of like putting together this perfect person all around, that seems a bit different than having boundaries, that you like, this is something that is necessary and that you can't cross, and you have like 2 or 3 of those versus like every single aspect. I'm going to make sure that you're exactly the person that I want. Those are different things. And when you say Build-A-Bear, you're talking about every single aspect. You're saying that you get to pick and choose every little thing that you want in a person.
Hoping that
I think when we're talking about a lifelong partner that you're going to be committed to and loyal to, and hope that they are committed and loyal to you for the rest of your life, possibly share property with, share literally legal documentation that says they're entitled to half of your money, I think we should probably be a little bit like stringent with who we pick for that. Probably.
yeah, we
no?
are stringent, and that's why probably one of the big reasons why a lot of people are so lonely.
Well, they're lonely because they're having a disconnect between their joy and values, and then that selfish, I am entitled to this. A person who's not entitled is more than happy to be single.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think you can not be entitled to a situation, but still desire like social interaction with
Yes.
Other individuals and not be able to find it.
Yes, but
I
would they
think
be
for the
bitter? Would they be angry? Would they be
Probably not,
resentful?
no, probably
Right?
not, no.
Like that's what I'm looking for. Because like, look,
Mhm.
plenty of people have to be single. I have brothers who are like nearing 40 and they're like, I haven't found her yet. Either
Have
she's
to
gonna be the
be
perfect Catholic
single.
girl or it's not gonna be a vibe, right? We're looking for the right lifestyle, the right values, morals, ethics. So we're not surprised 50 years into our marriage, like, oh my God, my husband's doing what on the internet? My wife's doing what on the internet? We want to know the person we're giving our body to, our financials to, our life, our kids to.
Okay, this is
right?
a whole jam. It's a whole other conversation. I have big thoughts on like I don't think you can ever really know someone 100%. You just can't. It's impossible. You're always going to get surprised. People are always going to change over time.
See, that's what I didn't want to get into in the conversation with Brittany yesterday, where she kept saying, like, you can get married to them, and then 20 years down the line, you're like, who did I let into my house? And I was thinking that's probably more likely that they changed. That, like, people change over time, that they have other influences on them, and they start to value other things. They grow up, they learn, they adapt. Like, they're not going to be the same person that you married 20 years ago. And but I didn't want to get into that because that's a whole other can of worms where like you're talking about how much a person can change, how much you can actually know a person. Like I didn't want to get into that, so I kept avoiding that every time she would say something about like not knowing the person or something like that.
If you are the same person you are today that you were 20 years ago, that's a problem. But it is also a conversation that misses a point of male loneliness, which I want to refocus in on, like, if we can, right? So the question becomes, why is it that women seem to be able to do this better than men? Like, the results we're seeing is women aren't having a problem with this at the same level that men are. And the question is why? Like, so even if you do think it's because, we're not centering our values, right? Or anything like that, why is it that men just can't seem to do it and women can? What's the problem?
Well, first thing I want to say is I believe women's loneliness is also on the rise. It's just men's is a little bit farther ahead. So like both parties our loneliness is increasing. So it's not like women have a fix all and like their loneliness is going down and men is going up. It seems like everybody's going up. Men is just going up a little bit faster. From my perspective, I think one of the main reasons why is because men are just not socialized in a way that to be able to effectively foster friendships. And in the current modern age, they're also not socialized in a way to foster relationships. We're very lost and misguided. We don't really know what to do. There's not really a good role model out here telling us, hey, this is what you do to be able to get be comfortable in these modern relationships and to find somebody in modern relationships. You either got like Andrew Tate, or honestly, it feels like you got people on the left just saying, fuck you, figure it out, men. Right? There's not really somebody who's giving us good, comprehensive advice. So there's that. And then for women, I think you do have a lot of shitty, like people tell you to do stupid shit like Andrew Tate and shit like that, right? And these red pill people. But also like some mainstream media and stuff can also give a lot of women very confusing advice that doesn't really meet merit. But the socialization early on, I think women get a slight advantage for being able to foster friendships and garner shit like that than men. I think that's resulting in the disparity.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say that I think women generally, that statistic or that generalization about women, they like people and men like things. I think women are at an advantage because we like people, like psychology is women.
Well, also, when men go out with their friends, they're more likely to go out with a group of people. So they don't ever have to have these like one-on-one intimate interactions. Whereas women are more likely to go out one-on-one. They're more likely to have those intimate interactions. In order for women to build a bond with another person, they have to have intimate interactions, whereas men don't. Men are not always looking for the intimate interaction. They're just looking for commonality, somebody that they can do something with. Can we play video games together? Can we sit and watch the same TV show? Can we sit on you know, can we play fantasy football together? Can we go to the gym together? Can we play basketball together? Like, they want common activities that they can do together, and then that's what helps them build a bond and start to enjoy each other's company. Whereas for women, they need intimate information from one another. They need to know your name. They need to know where you grew up. They need to know about your parents. They need to know about your boyfriends. They need to know what you're thinking. They need to know, like, all of these things. Like, in the guys, we'll be walking around just totally minding our own business, and our girlfriend out of nowhere will be like, what are you thinking? Like, bitch, what? Who are you? What do you mean, what am I thinking? Get the hell out of here with that freaking shit, dude. What do you mean, what am I thinking? What are you thinking? Damn it. Well, like, yeah, they want the intimacy. They want to know, like, deep details about you that men don't really think too much about. They don't care too much about. So women learn how to socialize one-on-one. They learn how to have intimate relationships. And so then when guys get into a relationship with a girl, these are the only times they have those one-on-one interactions, those one-on-one intimate, deep interactions with another human. And there's a lot of other baggage that comes with that because they're not used to this. This is not the way that they normally interact with other people. And so this becomes like their one confidant, the one person that they're able to talk about their feelings with, the one person that they're going to get into like deep stuff about their childhood with, you know, the one person that they're going to talk about, you know, all sorts of like trauma and whatever. Like, this is the one person. Your girlfriend is not just talking to you about this. She's talking to all her other friends about this. She's talking to them about your penis size. She's talking to them about, you know, she asked you what you were thinking the other day and you told her and she couldn't believe it. And now she's scared of you. Like, she's telling all of her other friends all of this intimate information and all the other crap as well. This is not the one, you are not the one person that she's having these conversations with, while she is the one person that the guy is having these conversations with. So she's already used to it. She already knows how to have an intimate relationship with somebody. She already knows how to have the strong bond with the intimacy. Tomfoolery show, I agree that we convene over common interests, but in my opinion, damn it, I lost it. I gotta go find it again. But in my opinion, my deepest friendships are a combination of time spent and real talk moments, shared experiences. Yes, once guys build bonds with people, they are more likely to have intimacy with those people. But they build, like, those are people that generally they have strong bonds with for a long period of time first. And I mean a long period of time, like a year, 2 years, 3 years. Like, they have to have those bonds for a long time before they actually have intimacy with these people on a deeper level. Whereas women, they're not even friends until they have that. They don't even consider you their friend until they have that. I was in a debate with Destiny a while ago where we were talking about the fact that two guys can sit in a Discord. I can sit here at my house. You can be all the way in another country at your house. And we can sit in a Discord together. Both of us got our headsets on. We're both in the Discord and we're both playing video games together. We don't talk to each other at all. We don't really say anything, say what's up. You know, maybe, hey, I'm going right, you go left. Like, hey, guys up on the balcony, get them, you know, damn it, good job, buddy. Like, you know, crap like that. You're not really talking to each other, but you're saying things, right? After 2 weeks of this, where you're not really talking to one another, but you're constantly seeing each other, you're constantly, like, conversing in you know, in this Discord with one another, after a couple weeks, you'll just start calling each other friends. You will just call each other friends because you've had this common interaction over and over and over. Whereas women, they can do the same exact thing. They will not call that person their friend. That person is not their friend. They are not friends with them. This is just somebody that they play video games with. This is just a random person on the freaking internet that they happen to play video games with. But they're not friends with them if they don't have some sort of intimate connection with them. They have to have some stronger bonds that's built on intimacy and Men don't have that. And so these are other areas where when it comes time to get into a relationship, there are things that women are just miles ahead of the rest of us on. They have way more practice and way more socialization in certain areas where they are ready for relationships, and men just aren't.
And people, like, women love people, so I think we have opportunities to be more introspective about ourselves, which lends to...
Have you ever fought physically with a friend and then hug it out after? Yes, of course. Of course, there's stats out there that show that like a good majority of men have had physical fights with their best friends. And not only that, but men, if they have a physical fight with their best friend, they both assume after the fight that they're still going to be friends. They might not talk for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple months, but they both assume the entire time they're going to be friends afterwards and that they'll get back together and everything will go back to normal. Whereas for women, they can just have small disagreements over the phone, just verbally, just a small disagreement. And if this is a fight, they have to come back to one another afterwards, right? So they both get off the phone, they're pissed off at one another, they had this disagreement. They have to come back to one another and decide whether or not they still want to be friends. This is something that men just don't do. Like, generally men will just assume they're still friends even though they got into a fight, whereas women have to come back and actually have a conversation about whether or not they still want to be friends, whether or not they still want to talk to one another over small verbal fights, because the things that are valued in each relationship are very different. We get into a physical fight, that doesn't mean that we can't still play video games together. That doesn't mean we can't still play basketball together. Like, we're still able to do the common things with one another that we were doing before. That fight doesn't change anything. Whereas for women, that fight changes their relationship. It changes the dynamics, because the intimacy that they have, they may not like each other as much anymore. And so they have to come back and decide whether or not they still like each other. It's like the things that are valued in each relationship are different. And so the way that they interact within those dynamics are going to be different.
Our singlehood not being like the end of the world to us. You know what I mean? We just have more time to form a relationship with ourselves. I do think men are neglected in this way. And I would encourage men to definitely take some time to get to know yourself.
Based.
I want to hear from the other side, though. I want to hear
what are some of the traits that women have, really, that men don't have in terms of building friendships, and why can't men just adopt those traits?
Because we're not socialized into it as effectively. Our parents don't teach us how to communicate and be diplomatic with it.
We can't change. We can't ever change.
It's not what I said. What you asked.
Yeah, that was not. I was about to say that is not the same thing.
Is what traits do women have that men don't? And I said the reason why women are going to have an easier time is because they're socialized into certain things that are more desirable for friendships at higher rates than men are. Not that we're incapable of achieving it.
Tomfoolery show, yeah, I draw the female distinction between acquaintances and friends, even on Discord, casual group chatters versus people that go into a 2 to 3 person chats for vulnerable chats. Yeah, I do to a certain extent. If I'm in the same group chat with the same couple of people every single day, and we're all having conversations about our day and talking about like stuff we did, I'll start to call those people friends. There are a ton of other streamers that have my cell phone number, that know my personal friends, that know my family. Like, there's a ton of streamers that I talk to that, like, we have like video chats over our phones. Like, there's a ton of people. When the stuff happened with Main Event, there were numerous people who were like, bro, like, why don't, what, like, I can go tell them that I know these people. And I'm like, people are already telling them they know these people. Like, you don't have to do anything. Like, there's numerous people who have already testified that they know these people. You don't gotta say shit. Like, there's so many people who know my people, who know my friends, who that I've like become close with over the internet. If you guys remember Hans of Harkir, he kind of left the space, but this is somebody that I know. I haven't talked to him much, but I have Playing with Fire's number. He has my phone number. But absolutely, there's kind of past relationships. Yeah, sure. There's people, I think there's different types of like dynamics to relationships based on the space that you're in as well. Like, there's people that I'm like strong acquaintances with, meaning that I'm in discords with them often, we're on the same shows often, we hang out in the same kind of groups often, and so I'll just kind of call them my friend, even though we don't have like a strong relationship with one another. They're streamers that I'm acquainted with. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. Acquainted? Is that a thing? Acquaintances. I'm acquaintanced with them? Well acquainted? Is that real? That doesn't sound right. Acquainted? What the hell is that? That doesn't sound right. That sounds like freaking a fake word. I think I'm getting... What's the phenomena called where like things change over time and they think like the government's changing things, like with movies and crap like that? The something effect. Mandela effect. Yes, this is a Mandela effect. Acquainted's not a real freaking word. You guys have all been tricked. I'm out of the matrix, so I don't fall for this freaking crap. But you guys, if you guys think acquainted is a real freaking word, you guys got Mandela'd. But yeah, obviously, it's not like a real bond that I have with these people. They are acquaintances, but we'll call each other friends because we're around each other enough, right? Like, we go on shows, but we don't have, like, personal relationships behind the scenes or talk to each other much behind the scenes. So, yeah, there's different, like, layers to this. But, yeah, while a bunch of us here, obviously, we think it's normal to get in fights with our best friends and, like, you know, and have physical altercations and crap like that. I mentioned this a couple of times on the internet. There's other streamers with like incel communities. They all freaked out. Like, what? You hit your friend and he was still friends with you after, and all he did was try to get your girlfriend to cheat on you? What? That's it? You would punch somebody over that? Oh my goodness, you are dangerous, bro. You're freaking dangerous, dude. That's it? That's all? Whoa! Like, they all freaked out. I'm like, wait. This is normal as hell, dude. I don't know what you guys are freaking out about. That's freaking normal as hell. This is like the most normal shit I've ever heard of. Like, this is like basic man brain. And but this separates the kind of the people who have you know, real life experiences, who date women in real life and not over the internet, who have girlfriends that they actually touch and not girls that they just send pictures to on Discord. Like, you know, people who probably did not grow up watching anime, playing video games, you know, sitting in online communities a whole lot. Like, this kind of separates those two types of people, where you see some have these socialized behaviors that are normal for men to have and for men to interact with one another, and then you have the like socially autistic people who don't have those interactions, who don't understand like social male bonds and the way that we get along and the way that we interact with one another, and like that getting punched is not the end of the world. Like, you're not gonna die because you got punched one time. Like, it's just it totally makes you realize that there are completely separate worlds that these people are growing up in, and then it makes you kind of empathize with like, oh, okay, so like, yeah, they just don't understand anything. Like, they're just so far out there that they actually don't understand how humans interact with one another. Depends where they punch you. I punched him. I think if I'm thinking of the right one, I think what I was telling them about the time it was main event. Tried to get my girlfriend to kiss him. She called me and said, hey, we were both drunk, and then he came over to my hotel and tried to get me to kiss him. I was picking him up at work like an hour later, and I punched him in the gut. Gave him a good knocked the air out of him, and he like curled up in a ball and was like, "Bro, why'd you do that?" I was like, "You tried to kiss my girlfriend." "No, I didn't. That didn't happen." Like, okay, I don't believe you, but here's your shit. And like he was living with me at the time back then as well. This was a long time ago. He's lived with me numerous times, but through his bags, that I had gotten all of his stuff together in bags and threw it all into the parking lot. Peace. Voluntary. Yes, sir.
It's just that it's obviously going to be harder when you're taught to interact with other people in a way that is not conducive towards healthy relationships and friendships in comparison to somebody who is. You're obviously going to start with a lesser, like, not as...
Are you talking to me, Lauren? Is he the one that leaves positive feedback? He used to. He doesn't anymore. I told him to stop that shit. I'm like, bro, people think that's me, dude. I don't want that shit. Him, my sister, there were a bunch of other guys who did it when I first started streaming. They would post on like Facebook and a bunch of like groups on Facebook and all sorts of crap. I'm always called out. I'm asking. Are you talking about me? You said, "I feel so sorry you haven't interacted with a normal lady." I've interacted with normal ladies. This one chick happened to not be. So she was normal when we first got together. Okay, she was super chill, super normal, like had things together, had a job, all this shit. Mind you, this is my first girlfriend after getting out of prison too. Okay, my first girlfriend after getting out of prison, because I didn't want a girlfriend at first. My girlfriend that I had when I went to prison, she would come over like stoned out of her mind, her pupils super tiny, like super screwed up. I'm clean. I'm trying to stay clean here, dude. And she would come over like trying to hit me up, being like, "Hey, come hang out, let's go," like slurring her words and crap. It's like, hell no, dude. Hell no. Get the hell out of here. Main Event brought her over to my freaking house one day, and I told him to get the hell out of here. And
James Hansen became a member.
James Hansen, let's go, dude. Appreciate you joining. And John
Leox became a member.
But yeah, I wasn't willing to chill with them. So I thought eventually she would get clean and we would be together. Didn't happen. She ended up getting pregnant by one of my other boys, and so that never happened. But this other chick, I ended up being with her like a year later or so. And when we got together, she was cool, she was clean, she was super chill. And then while we were together, she became an alcoholic, started doing pills for the first time, and started doing all sorts of freaking crap, like bath salts before bath salts were even a thing. What's the current drug that's having like the epidemic now? That, because she was doing this stuff back then. Like, I never even heard of it back then, really. And she was doing this shit while we were together. Fentanyl, yes. She was doing fentanyl, like all sorts of weird crap that out of nowhere she was doing this stuff. And so I got her to go to rehab. And I remember, dude, the most soul-crushing thing she said to me, dude. Oh, it hurt so bad, man. It hurt so bad, man. It took me like 3 months to get this chick into rehab. Took me so much. Pushing, trying, talking to her parents, talking to her dad, like really, really trying to get this chick into rehab. And when she finally went to rehab, I picked her up one day because she had a free day where I could come pick her up and take her out and go do stuff with her and bring her back later that night. And as I'm dropping her off, she says, "I'm breaking up with you." And I was like, "What? why? She's like, well, for the like last 6 months, I've been like high, drunk, all these things, and I really liked you. But I have no idea if I'm still gonna like you when I'm sober. It's like, what? What does that mean? That's fucked up, dude. What the hell? Like, shot to the heart, dude. Like, oh my goodness. Like, okay, so you only like me because you're freaking wasted. Okay, that sucks, dude. 40 years old and looking for the perfect Catholic virgin. Good luck, bros. Sounds good. Oh fuck, I wasn't live when I commented. I was about to say, I haven't seen these people in chat wherever the hell they are. String puller. Bro, I was gonna send you a message the other day. I was so embarrassed, bro. I was scrolling through, okay, damn it then. I was scrolling through TikTok. I gave you a commercial idea a while ago. Scrolling through TikTok, and I saw, I think literally the same exact thing, dude. I thought it was my idea, but this thing looks old as hell. The video looks super old. I'm pretty sure I totally copied something else and then gave it to you as my own freaking idea. And I meant to message you the other day when I saw it. I was so, oh man, I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh no, dude. I thought I was so smart. Oh no. That's a good song, shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. Yeah. Yeah, it's from 2011, the idea that magician who had to get, you know what I'm fucking talking about. Damn it. No. I'm pretty sure you asked me, like, how did you come up with this shit? And I was like, I don't know. I think I might have, like, seen it somewhere else or something, but I have no freaking idea. Oh. Damn it, dude.
Good of a head start, no?
But why are men more lonely now than they were before?
My like in platonic relationships?
Well, do you
or
feel like men are more able or are less able now to form male friendships than they used to be?
Well, less able. Yeah, I think right now is a very confusing, changing times for young men. I think that right now there's a lot of information that says either you're, like I was saying previously, you're a god for being born with a penis because Andrew Tate told me I was a god, or like I'm like a piece of shit because I was born with a penis because God forbid I'm a male. I think that there's very little in between that's like, hey, you know what? You're actually not like the king of the castle, but you're also not like a piece of shit peasant. And let me tell you how to live and navigate your life so that way you can have healthy relationships and friendships. Also, there's a really big issue with not having male role models in the household, right? I, for instance, didn't have a single, not one male in my life growing up. I had aunts, I had my mother, I had my grandmother. I had no man to look up to when I was growing up. And I know there's a lot of people, a lot of especially black individuals who are struggling with the same thing. We have no person to look up to, no male to be like, okay, this is how I navigate the world as a man. We have to kind of figure that shit out.
I also think they have a lot of time on their hands versus before. I would argue that my ancestors most certainly didn't have time to think about, like, what do I like to do? Like, you know what I mean? So men are now given this opportunity, and I really encourage you to use this as a time to realize what your hobbies are. Who am I? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Because I do think men are now getting that same liberation that women had before, which is like, you get to choose, boys. And I think you should choose joy that is, it makes sense to you as an individual, right? But I do think it is hard. I think you're in a transition. I think it's very difficult, and it will take a lot of support. And that support is where I think Ahrelevant's trying to make that point. Where do they get that support? I'm lucky. I have 8 brothers, so they have each other. They also have groups of friends. Yeah, I have 8 brothers and 1 sister. So, and I have like 81st cousins. So we have an insane amount of support in well, we're Middle Eastern, right? We're immigrants. So like tons of family, right? So we're really privileged in that way. And I think
yeah, I think that this seems to be a common theme as well, as like a lot of streamers, a lot of public speakers, a lot of these people had a lot of brothers and sisters. They were around a lot of people growing up and were always like interacting with other people to where they got this head start on socialization and socializing and all of this other crap pretty early.
think when kids are only 1 or 2 and they have no siblings, they don't talk to their siblings, they don't have cousins, they don't have aunties or uncles. I think we're talking about something that is so much more complex than we want to give it credit for, right? But I know men can do it. I just know it's really difficult. And I
Destiny wasn't? No, he was. Yes, he was. His mom, babysat tons of kids, and he had stepbrothers and sisters, but he doesn't talk to his stepbrothers and sisters today, but he had stepbrothers and sisters, or half brothers and sisters. I don't remember which one. It's in my interview with him, but and then his mom also babysat a bunch of kids, and so he was always around a ton of other kids all the time.
know that that part is the hard part, right?
What do you think of all this, Boots?
I don't know. I feel like we're kind of like doing that thing that you said in the beginning, where we're like looking at the symptom and like trying to break.
His family let him do his own thing. Yes, after a certain period of time, yes. He started just like going away and doing his own thing and not really hanging out with everybody else. But because he eventually got upset that like all of the other kids were getting attention and he wasn't, and so he would just dip off into a hole and play video games all day. But that's like well down the line. Like when we're talking about learning socialization and crap like this, we're talking about like early childhood, like really when you're taking in the most amount of information.
Break it down and figure out little solutions for the symptom when really that's not the big fucking issue.
What is the big
I feel
issue
like
to you? Let's get to the heart of it.
I mean, I think generally, as women have become more liberated and don't feel as beholden to men, men who have relied on that completion from women are not able to get that. And I think that's why like male friendships and those have kind of declined, because in the past, fathers didn't have to teach their sons like how to treat other people necessarily, because if you did like the basics, if you got like if you got an okay job, then you could get a wife. Like this isn't, it's not as complicated. It wasn't as complicated as it is
Well,
now.
those wives divorced those husbands, though. Are you talking about a whole generation of women that left their husbands once they got freedom? Like which generation?
Well, I mean, no, like Boots is right. Like this is part of the complication for men, is that it was the systems that were built for men to be able to get women was that they just got a good job and were a good caretaker and were nice. And that was like, we had really low expectations for men for a long time. And so throughout the 80s and 90s, men had to like learn more skills and do more as women had more freedom and were more independent. And now, but they were still making more money throughout these periods in time. And then now, even though men still make more money, it's the younger men are a little bit behind. Like I think the younger generations, I haven't looked this up in a while, so I could be totally wrong on this. I'll look it up in the background after I say it, but I believe younger generations of men are making less than women. Women are graduating high school with higher testing scores. They're graduating college, or certain sectors of college, like they're graduating from certain sectors of college at higher rates. Even black women are the highest minority group that's graduating college at the highest rate right now. So there's like a lot of these social dynamics are switching pretty quickly for younger men.
What generation are you talking about?
Okay, but what we're doing is talking about why loneliness is increasing among men. So
Right.
even
You admit it's a shift in culture, but the culture you're referring to never existed for men to be like lonely. Women were lonely. Women were the men of that time, and now men are feeling the same loneliness women were feeling in those marriages. And now men are choosing to be single like they're volunteering to be single. In the same way, women, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just a switch in
I don't
demographics.
think that's true.
Yeah, okay, I'm assuming this is what I read. The Pew Research Center analyzed the Census Bureau data that found that in 22 of 250 U.S. metropolitan areas, women under the age of 30 earn as much or more than their male counterparts. New York City and Washington, D.C. are among the cities in which young women earn more than young men, the study found. So we went through this, and it was some of the most populated cities as well, like where most people are that had these data sets. So women are just doing better than men in so many different areas to where, yeah, it is making it harder for men to fulfill the roles that they think they're going to fulfill.
What do you
Wait,
mean?
how are they being? Yeah, how are
So
they
I just read before I came on, I was reading the statistics of Pew Research, and it said that women are more single in their 50s, which reflect the boomer and like Gen X generation. But millennial women are doing fine, and older women are doing fine when their husbands die. Like women do fine, generally speaking. Men don't. But men haven't had the time to be lonely. They've been working. They've been working their asses off. Women have had time being housewives to figure out they're lonely. Now the women are working. Men are not going to college at the same rate. They are staying home, and now they have the time to figure out, I think I'm lonely.
So I don't
Now
think
they have to go through it.
Yeah, I don't think though. I don't think that. So the problem is not that men are choosing to be single. Like, because if they were choosing this, if they were voluntarily like,
Tomfoolery show, is Grace your type of crazy girl? No, definitely not. Like, the crazy girls that I'm talking about are like honest people. They don't like pretend to have sex with their dad or bait people on being sexually assaulted and crap like that. That is a whole other type of crazy that I am not interested in.
okay with this, it would be a problem. They'd be like, oh, that's a lifestyle choice. You're good. Have fun. Enjoy. Right? The problem is that they want to be in a relationship. They want to have friends. They want to not be lonely. And for whatever reason, they aren't. They can't bridge that gap. Right? So I think that.
Wasn't Lav your type of crazy? No. I made a joke about Lav and Anna being my type of crazy girl. I don't like, I'd always said that I liked crazy girls, but I was not actually saying that about those two. That was literally like, so I think for me at the time, the issue was that not enough people watched me, and so they didn't know when I was joking and when I wasn't. But the people who all watched me consistently all knew that stuff was a joke, and then all of these other people didn't know that I was joking. So I had to actually like roll that one back pretty quickly. What if she is being honest, Tomfoolery show? What if she really does? It's possible, but I think it's both, one way or the other. Like, it's definite, even if it's true that they do it, they still bait people and joke about it and crap like that. That's still the case either way. Well, here's your joke biting your ass. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it actually bit my ass. I think that I thought it was freaking funny. It didn't, like, it doesn't, I don't get into relationships with women on the internet, so at no point does it bother me that people think that I'm into crazy girls when it's not like this is gonna affect my dating prospects in any way or something like that.
Like, to think that they're choosing this, I think that's just wrong. But that's just
to be perfectly fair. I mean, I agree with the idea that they're probably not choosing it and stuff like that. But to be fair, those aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. For a long time, I decided to not be in a relationship, and the purpose and the reason why is because I just didn't really have time or any like. There's no way I could reasonably be inside of a relationship given the kind of responsibilities that I had, especially growing up. So there's people who might very much desire to be in a relationship, but there's certain burdens that are placed upon them that just kind of forbid that kind of activity or make it very difficult to be able to do. But in my opinion, when it comes to I guess the specific problem of loneliness and to bring it back to the changing culture and things like that, you're right that women are getting liberated and their standards are changing. I'm not going to necessarily say increasing because we'd have to get into like whatever, but the women's standards are changing. It used to be indeed that you just have a job, and for the most part, because women couldn't work and stuff like that, you'd get a wife. But now that isn't the case. What do I provide? Right? What do I do? This is where Andrew Tate comes in. This is where like the lift comes in. This is where all these people. What do I do? What is I as a man? What do I do? What do I bring to the table? I don't know. We don't know. I have no fucking clue what I'm supposed to bring to the table. Am I supposed to be macho? Am I supposed to make more money than my wife? Am I supposed to protect her physically? Am I supposed to present as this? I don't know. Andrew Tate says that's true. And he seems successful with women. He seems successful in life. I think he might be right. That's how I think a lot of young men are going about it.
Do you think people date like in categories, like in the?
I mean, it is confusing, but I also think that people oversimplify these things. People like Andrew Tate, people like Fresh and Fit. Like, this is why lots of times when we're arguing about these guys, I'm always saying that it doesn't seem as though they're actually telling you how to attract the most amount of women or be appealing to the largest group of women. They're always telling you how to get like this specific subset of women in a specific area that most people will never interact with. And so there are different cultures, there are different priorities, there are different things that women are attracted to. Just the other day we were talking about how some women are attracted to the gym bod versus the dad bod, and most women are attracted to something in between those two things. Most women are probably attracted to a guy who's lean, has muscles, is like chiseled, but not super big, not super massive. And I don't think that any of these guys that we're talking about are preaching those things. They're not talking about how to appeal to the most women in any way. They're telling you how to get the most shallow women, or the women who are only worried about like the most pointless things, like how, what kind of car you drive, how much money you have, how much you go to the gym, that sort of crap. And yeah, like those things can be impressive for like a short amount of time for some women, but most women aren't just looking for that. That's not enough to actually pull a lot of people in. You have to have social skills, you got to be personable, you got to be funny, you got to be charismatic, you got to have like a whole slew of things that are going to be helpful for relationships, and they don't talk about those things. They don't actually help anybody with those things.
Like, my brother is conservative and religious, so of course he'd have a stay-at-home wife, right? Bam, easy.
Sure.
That's like an easy no. He needs to be macho. That's like a really easy know what to do. But if you're a guy, like I have a lot of
The most appealing thing is intelligence, emotional and otherwise, humor and confidence. Yep. That's, I mean, generally, I think that that's how we, how most people think of it, is like confidence comes first, being confident in what you're doing. But most guys aren't confident in things that they're doing if they're not actually good at it, or if they don't have any sort of background in it, or they don't know what they're talking about. So actually having some intellect there, being funny has a lot to do with being socially inept, socially aware, and charismatic. Like, there are a bunch of different things that women are looking for, and it's oversimplified by red pill and black pill to be some of the most meaningless things that are still things that women look for. It's still good to have a good job. It's still good to drive a nice car. It's still good to go to the nice restaurants, and to work on your figure, and all of those things still matter. They're still helpful, but those are like down the line on priorities for women a lot of times, where like they can become attracted to you based on your personality alone. And I'm not even joking. Like, there are, I would say probably most women, the way that they see you will change just based on your personality. You can look like an absolute nobody, and they can have absolutely no interest in you. And if you can just walk into a group of people and sound like you know what you're talking about, be funny, be charismatic, and kind of like own the room, and like that can totally change a woman's perception of you, and your physical attraction changes to her in that moment. Like, you're not just like that, but your physical attraction can change based on your personality to a woman, for sure. None non-physical attractiveness supersedes physical attractiveness. Yes. For women, yes. For women, your personality, the things that you say, the things that you do, those can override physical attractiveness all day, every day. It is, and this is something that, again, like red pill and black pill, just don't talk about these things because they can't acknowledge that part of it. Red pill is nothing but half-truths made to sound insightful. A half-truth is still a lie. Sure, yeah, like, obviously that's what I just talked to Smith about the other day, so that's obviously true. There's no confidence for your face. If you're confident and walk up to a girl and you're ugly, then be confident enough to get pepper sprayed. What the fuck? I don't think chicks are pepper spraying guys just because they're ugly.
Callers. I have a lot of interesting people in my life, a lot of viewers, and they'll be like really progressive in some ways, like pro sex work, pro furries, pro BDSM, pro this, and they'll be like, I want to stay at home wife who's traditional. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about how we can have these things, but that's a Build-A-Bear relationship. That's a very specific relationship, right? And let's talk about why we think we need these things in the first place. And then I have a lot of guys who say they're going to go out of country to find these women. Like, I'm going to go to a different country to find a traditional woman. Again, what is this woman? And because like they're making 30, 40K. So like, what is this woman they think they're going to get, right? In order for my brother to support 4 kids, he makes over 100,000 and up to 180K a year, working like 15 hours a day. Machining, I'm telling you guys, every man should consider it. It's a good industry and it's always here. So like, it's one of those things, right? Like he worked his ass off for that purpose of fulfilling that role, which is very easy to know. But when you don't know yourself and you don't know exactly what role you want to fulfill, it is more difficult. And it always comes down to knowing yourself. And society is a reflection of the self. That's what I believe, at least.
There's no personality for your face. Face, that doesn't make sense. You can keep saying it. It's not going to make any more sense the more you say it. That doesn't mean anything. When we say your face doesn't matter all that much, your physical attraction doesn't matter all that much, and then we're explaining why it doesn't matter all that much, and then you respond with, there's no personality for your face, that doesn't mean anything. Like, you would have to explain why the other things that we're talking about don't make sense in order for you to even get to that part first. But you're not even engaging with the explanation yet to get to the part where you could actually talk about personality for the face. This whole Build-A-Bear thing is generally a good metric, but you have to be willing to accept some flaws. People need the chance to grow and progress and change. I don't even think it's a good metric. I think that people ought to think about things in a very different way. Tomfoolery show, the reality is that women are looking for a complete and well-rounded person. So you kind of have to work on everything and meet some financial requirements for lifestyle and or children. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Our collective.
Wait, what? This, okay.
Do you think it was easier to get a wife in a relationship like, you know, before 1968 or after 1968?
Hold on, my camera's gonna die right now. I need to switch out the battery. I'm so sorry, I forgot to put in my charger, but I'll come back. You guys talk.
Okay. I would probably say it would be easier to get into a relationship before 19. Well, I mean, if we're assuming we're foregoing the wars and shit, then yeah, before 1968.
Okay, why would that be?
Probably because of exactly what Brittany just said.
If you're ugly, it's over. All right, FaZe. Take it from all the people who actually have their faces in their profile pics. From all of the women who are in chat, from all of the sex havers around here, that is not the case. That's not how it works. That's not how women's attractiveness works. That's not how their brains work. They, FaZe, Lauren, did you initiate divorce? Oh my goodness. Of course that's the question they ask. Of course that's the question they ask. The frickin' evil woman obviously initiated the divorce. Obviously, women love divorcing men. That's their favorite thing to do. I filed he had an affair for 1.5 years, but never... Wow, no. Lauren, no. You can't blame the man. What are you blaming men for everything? What the hell? What the hell? All of these women who are getting divorced, the men did nothing wrong, okay? There was no reason for the women to file divorces. They had no reason whatsoever. They just wanted to take half their money. That's all it was. They just wanted to take half their money. And so you are a gold digger who's turning around and doubling down by blaming the man on top of that. So you can run around and, oh yeah, girlfriend, you go get yours. Independent woman living on my ex-husband's money. Yeah, no thank you. We're not falling for that crap.
Knew what my job was as a man. There's a woman, I need to provide for her. I know what my roles are. I know what A, B, C, and D I need to bring to the table to be able to satisfy her in a relationship.
You don't think it's just that men had to show up with a job and that was it?
Well, that was what I needed to do. Yeah, that was a part of it, and I knew what I needed to do. What does a man need to do right now?
Statistically, it's the women who initiate the majority of divorces. Yes, dude. Everybody knows that. Everybody's well aware that men are screwing up at really high rates to where women keep divorcing them. We all know this. We are all well aware. That doesn't mean that that's all divorces, but you would assume the majority of women aren't going into marriages just waiting to get divorced. You would assume by far the majority of women going into marriages are there because they want to be there, and then they're divorcing because they don't want to be there. That is the obvious conclusion to come to. Are you going on a panel? Yeah, I'm moderating a panel for another channel. So yeah, there's a panel here shortly in about 30 minutes.
Probably the number one thing is compromise in a relationship and communicate.
So you think any man who compromises in a relationship is going to get a relationship as reliably as they would in 1968 if they had a job?
All right, Depector, chill. That's a little too far. You're being retarded.
As reliably? No,
yes.
Of course not. You just show up and provide for a woman back then, and then now you have to actually work on yourself.
Wait, what's it? Oh, Brittany turned off her cam. Okay.
Compromise in a relationship.
But in 1968, if they had a job.
As reliably? No,
yes.
Of course not. You just show up and provide for a woman back then, and then now you have to actually work on yourself. Right?
Yeah. So the problem is we don't know what is we don't know exactly what we need to do. Just saying compromise. There's many people who would be willing to compromise with their partner who aren't in relationships.
Well, I gave an example. Like if your girlfriend is cooking, you're doing the dishes, right? That's an example of a compromise.
Well, that as soon as we got into the relationship in the first place, a lot of these men who are
again, FaZe, you can cope all day. That's not what matters. That people with personality all understand that they don't need great faces. They don't need to be the best looking. They don't need to have a whole lot of they don't have to be this great looking Chad where we fetishize the square jaw and crap like that. Like especially where I live, the dudes who are pulling chicks are some ugly freaking dudes. The hottest dudes, damn it, why did I say hottest? I shouldn't have. I didn't mean to say hottest. I was going to say the best looking, and I freaking said hottest. Damn it. Scratch that. The best looking dudes are all walking. No, I can't say that. I can't say that. The best looking dudes are all walking around with, dudes that I think are way better looking than me are walking around with chicks that I would never date. So it looks for women becomes abundantly clear to not be all that important. You can just walk around and look at who all the hot chicks are with, and it becomes blatantly clear that it's not the face that matters all that much. Your play date with Sick the other night really affected you, didn't it? What does that mean?
Lonely, can't even get in a relationship, can't even get the foot in the door because of something that even you talked about, which is the fear of rejection. How is my desirability to compromise with an imaginary girlfriend that I'm unable to get because I'm so afraid of rejection? I never ask a girl out or become vulnerable or available to a woman. How does that help me? I can be the most compromising man on God's green. Doesn't matter.
But you can work on your fear of rejection, right? You can actually do that. You can put yourself in situations that will work on that like a muscle, right?
Yep.
That's not something that women have to, deal with. That's something that you have to deal with. You have to deal with your own fear of rejection and your own fear of failure. Absolutely.
It means
women have to deal with rejection.
It means that you have to sort it out. Women don't sort it out for you. Of course, women do have to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, I actually I don't agree with that necessarily either. I think we can be kinder to people that we reject as well. I don't think that's necessarily a woman or man's responsibility. I think that's everybody's responsibility. When I reject a woman, like I should probably be sensitive to the idea that like I should, if like a woman walks up to me, is like, "Hey, you want to date?" And I'll be like, "Ew, no." Like I probably shouldn't do that. I should probably be kind. I should probably be like, okay, so you agree there is some manner of responsibility that I have when rejecting somebody to look out for their feelings.
Yeah, but if somebody goes, "Ew, no," if you went, "Ew, no," that's your problem. That's not their problem. They shouldn't internalize that. You're just an asshole.
They shouldn't internalize that. That's a hard ass.
What? No
That's
way.
a hard ass.
No, it's not.
Well,
and also like people that are sensitive to rejection, you can reject them in like a totally polite, friendly way, and they will take it as the worst possible rejection. So that's why this is like a subjective problem. This is something that you have to sort, because whether it's a harsh rejection or
Lauren, have fun with the money, I guess. You guys are literally the memes. You guys are literally the memes. It's so funny. I'm sitting here like I said all of the crap that you guys were gonna say, and then you guys actually go and say it. You guys are just memes, dude. You guys are being controlled by somebody. There's no shot you are this out of pocket, dude. There's no shot like you guys are just like memes off the internet where you just sit around repeating crap that we see in freaking on Reddit or 4chan or something like that.
Or a friendly rejection. That doesn't matter. Like every person's going to take it totally differently.
No, wait, that's ridiculous. Just because somebody can take my, oh, sorry, no, I actually have a girlfriend, as like a bombshell nuke to their self-esteem doesn't mean I should go, ew, gross, get away from me, whore. Like just because, okay, so we can agree on the idea that we have some manner of responsibility to make it easier on people to be able to do the things that they should be doing, things like approaching people, talking with them, trying to foster friendships, relationships, and things like that. So we're not just like, so it does matter the way that we reject people because it affects how they proceed forward in their life. Because I promise you, there's a lot of the people that we're talking about, men and women, right? A lot of them will maybe put themselves out there once or twice or something, and they'll get like an ego-destroying moment or something like that, and then or hear about somebody who had an ego-destroying moment, and then they'll be petrified about the idea of going forward and doing it again.
Yeah, I had girls where I was dating. Okay, so I had this girlfriend that I was with, and I've talked about numerous times that I like when I'm with a girl, like I'm very good at just blocking out all other chicks, don't pay attention to them, very good at just like kind of ignoring all of them, especially if I'm with a girl who's fairly jealous. I want to make sure that she feels comfortable and she feels secure in our relationship. But I had this one girlfriend who started to say like, yeah, I still want to see you, but I think I want to see other people, and I'm just kind of not really into like a whole relationship thing. And I was like, what the hell? Like, we were talking about like getting married and shit. Like, where did this come from? And she's like, yeah, I just like, I don't know, just like I want to see other people, and I know that you're going to be mad about this because like you're going to have trouble meeting other girls and crap like that, but that doesn't mean that you should hold me back. I was like, you really believe that like I can't like go find another girl? And she's like, yeah, like you don't ever talk to other women are never talking to you. Once you left high school, like you kind of like stopped hanging out with most of your social groups, and you just hang out with me most of the time. So she's like, I think that you're gonna have some issues here. So I was like, okay, fine, chill. I was pissed off about it. I wasn't happy, but because we were talking about getting married and crap. So I was like, all right, cool. A couple days later, I'm with this other chick, okay? Her name is Nicole. And Nicole, sweet girl, super sweet girl, super cute. Like, treated me like a freaking god, though. Like, was like, I can't believe that you broke up with her, and now you're talking to me, and blah, blah, blah. And I was interested in her, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm looking for, like, a relationship, somebody who's actually gonna like looking to just be with one person. So this is dope. But the other girl, her name was Lindsay, comes back and is immediately like talking shit to Nicole, sending her a bunch of messages on AOL Instant Messenger at the time. It was AIM, like sending her tons of messages. You're a bitch. You're ugly as hell. I'm so much better looking than you. You know, like, like I could take Tom back if I wanted to, which she was right. Like I did go back to her, but anyways, so yeah, Lindsay was like, okay, I was wrong. I want to be in a relationship. Like, I don't want to see other people. I thought that I could do this, but I got super jealous immediately. And like, I want to be in a monogamous relationship. So it's like, all right. So I break up with Nicole. Okay. And I tell her, like, yeah, I'm sorry. It's just not working out. I didn't tell her I was going back to the other chick that had just like sent a whole lot of really messed up stuff to her and was like being a freaking piece of shit towards her. I didn't tell her that. And when I got out of prison, like 3 years later, Nicole messages me and says like, hey, did you get back with Lindsay? And I was like, yeah, I did. She's like, I wish you had just told me that. She's like, you like really screwed up my self-confidence and I had trouble dating for a while after that because I thought there was something wrong with me and I couldn't figure out what it was that you were unhappy with. And she's like, it really changed the next like year of my life to where I was trying to figure out what the hell happened here. And I was like, I felt horrible. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, you're right. I should have told you that. I was being a pussy, and I didn't want to tell you that this girl that I was telling you, I definitely hated. I couldn't believe she was saying this horrible stuff to you. It was embarrassing to admit that I was going back to her. And so I was like, I should have just told you, and I felt bad. But yeah, if you don't tell the person the truth and you're not honest with them, but in like in a decent way, yeah, it'll leave them wondering. I mean, I've talked about the fact that I went through a depression where like I had no idea what the hell happened with my last relationship and was left just like wondering what went wrong with this hardcore whiplash right afterwards. So yeah, Ahrelevant's right. Like the way that you break up with people, the way that you reject people, what you say to them, like all of these things can have a huge effect on the trajectory of the relationships in the future.
So, and in all of that, a lot of that can be staved off by just having a calm, reasonable, emotionally considerate response to somebody asking you out.
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's just a postponement of like your rejection sensitivity, because it's going to happen that somebody is not going to be super nice to you. You might get rejected nicely once and you're like, okay, cool, I'll just try the next one. And then you get rejected in a really mean way. So like, yes, we have that responsibility, but that's not solving the problem.
Wait, I feel like she just went back on everything. Like, yes, of course, it's something that's going to happen, but it is still like a responsibility of people to interact with others in an honest way. It's still everybody's responsibility to interact with people in a moral way. Like, just saying, well, people are going to steal from you, so we shouldn't say people shouldn't steal, like, that's ridiculous. That's not a helpful statement in any way.
I never said it was solving the problem. What I'm saying is that you have a responsibility to do it so that way you can make so other people can feel more comfortable doing what they should be doing in reality, which is talking to people, interacting with people. Being polite and courteous is good because it enables other people to feel comfortable interacting with other people, being social. If we threw that by the wayside, so many people would be scared to even ask.
9 p.m. what time zone? Normal person time zone, obviously.
Their teacher a question.
Yeah,
be like, you
hot take, but we have, right? You see, like, I'm going to relate this to some other political issues that we've seen going on is people feel entirely okay with just being little shitters now. Their civility politics is dead in a lot of cases, right? They say, oh, this person was mean to me, or this person is an oppressor. They're a colonizer. I can treat them shitty. They've oppressed my people for years and years and years, right? So fuck them. And I think that we are seeing kind of like a mirror image of this play out when it comes to men and women. Men and women, both, again, both genders are at fault here, will think that, oh, this woman was mean to me sometimes, so it gives me pass to be just a shitter to all women and just go full misogynist. And women are like, well, men, oppress me and have been violent towards me and mean to me in the past, so I could just, I don't have to spare their feelings. Fuck them, right? It's their responsibility. And I think that is leading to the situation where we have now, where everyone's just feeling it's okay to be a little shit to the other, thinking the other person deserves it. So
Yeah,
Which is
because
a
like,
great
how
way-
dare you approach
Sorry, go
me?
ahead.
No, go for it. That was all I wanted to say.
I was gonna say it's a great way to know who not to date, though. Like,
That
it's
is true.
definitely not your person.
Kind of. Well,
It really
actually,
depends on what you're being shitty about, though, right?
of course, yeah. I think if somebody walks up and is like, "Hey, what's up, sugar tits?" and then you're like, "Ew, fuck off, gross." Like, yeah, fuck that nigga. Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
100%.
yeah, but this is the thing. That's not okay.
But yeah, but that's I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, that's not the average guy, of course.
It's not the average guy. Most men. Well, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe because I'm a gentleman, a paragon of virtue, and so I only treat women with the utmost respect. But maybe I'm an outlier. So let's ask the women on the panel, Boots and Brittany here. When you have been approached by men, is it mostly respectful, mostly neutral, mostly horrific? What's your experience here? I'm just curious.
Boots, do you want to go first?
Yeah, it's pretty neutral. Like it's not horrific experiences. Obviously, like most women have had pretty awful experiences with men, me included, but it's not like I'm horrified.
Well,
if
no, I'm
somebody
asking
approaches me.
if 100 men approach you, are most of them going to be horrific towards you? Is what I'm asking, right? Because I recognize
no.
that everyone has had bad experiences, right? But
Or
I'm
else one
asking
was-
the experience: is it usually bad, usually neutral, usually good?
Yeah, I'd say it's usually neutral.
Okay.
I would say in my position, I do a lot of the approaching. I slid into the DMs of my husband. Like, I'm definitely more of the approacher. So I'm gonna be real with you. When people do approach me, I will say I usually, not to be such a mom, but I'm usually like, so you did this wrong. This is what you should have done. Because like what they usually do is they'll take my no and they'll say, what do you mean no? And they'll follow me. I'm like, see how you're following me? This is giving me stalky vibes. And I know you're not a stalker. So like the problem is like I'm too dominant of a woman to just approach because I will lecture a boy. But you know what? I think those boys went off and dated a little bit better because I told them, I was like, you're handsome, you're nice, but this Riz thing you're doing isn't really like a vibe. It's like only a vibe in certain bubbles, right? So like when you're interacting with me, you're not gonna get anywhere with me. Like it's not gonna work on me. But I can see why you thought it might. And so we'll talk it through. But this is what I mean to say, like flirting, the art of flirting. Who are you flirting with? Who is the person? Is this a Pride and Prejudice situation? Is this a 304 situation? What situation are we in? Because these are different situations.
Oh my goodness, that's so based. So
Thank
based.
you.
So yeah, the only thing that I wanted to add is that I think when you're talking about men that approach women like casually.
What does Riz mean again? I always forget. I know it's short for something. What is it short for?
I think you're already selecting for a group of men that are going to be less considerate of women's like boundaries and things like
Charisma. Why do we call it Riz? Stop. That's a dumb name.
that, because you're gonna have two main subsets, right? Either men who are like just like aren't very considerate, and men who really know what they're doing, are very confident and understand that. Obviously, I think we can all agree there's not a lot of men who really know what they're doing and who are very confident in their 20s. That's a pretty difficult thing to do. That's a reasonable skill. So there's not a lot of people. So in my opinion, the bulk of the people who are going to approach you are probably not going to be. They're just going to probably be drunk or something like that, and they're just going to like waltz their way through and do some stupid shit, some reckless shit, and maybe say some things that are pretty out of pocket. So I think using men that approach as a picture for all men is misguided.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I'll say this one last thing. Is my partner would say that he is the kind of person that would have hoped that I would have approached him because like he doesn't want to be inconsiderate. He's a super considerate to the fault almost. Like he literally is like, I just don't want to be rude.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay,
yes.
it will be rude for you. I will slide into the DMs.
Have we demonized men approaching women too much?
Well, they do it badly.
That's so yeah. So this is the thing. I love you, Wick and Brittany. I love you both. Like this is the thing that I would say I fell prey to, and still kind of in the problem of. I grew up hearing consistent. You guys see that TikTok trend or whatever, where there's like women in the gym or whatever who are like taking a video of a guy who's like just like literally looking in their direction or whatever. I fell prey to essentially the prior version of that, which is a lot of women that I grew up with. I grew up surrounded by women saying how disgusting men are talking to them in all environments, at work, in school, at the grocery store, and everything, to the point where I had paralysis to do any of that. I could not approach women in any circumstance.
I mean, I've talked about being like similarly, like what women that I dated in my early 20s, high school, like all of that, almost all of them approached me. I was terrified of approaching women. Tom, you're watching a recording. I'm sorry. I'm getting onto the panel and I'm testing my audio. Shut the hell up. But yeah, I was terrified of women. I was terrified of people. I was always afraid that like I was always afraid that I was like encroaching on them, that I was going to make them feel uncomfortable, that I was going to that like I talked about this. I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian household, and so I was always told that men don't want love, men just want sex. That's all they want. They just want sex, but men don't really care about love in a relationship. They just want relationships because they want sex. And women want love. They don't want sex. Women don't care about sex. They're not like interested in it, but they have sex because they want love from the man. And so they're just getting into the relationship just so that they can get sex from the man. And then I see all these TV shows in the 90s where all of these girls are always talking about the guy pressured me and I wasn't ready and he was, you know, he was trying to move too fast and like I don't think I love him yet and I'm not sure and all of this stuff. And so it was imprinted in my brain that like women were terrified of men, that they always thought men were trying to have sex with them, that anytime a guy looks at them, that guy's like about to rape them or something. Like, and so I always felt like girls would come up and like kiss me and like grab my butt and crap, and I always thought like, oh, I must have done something to make them think that they have to do that for me to like them. And I felt bad immediately. I'm like, crap, I don't know what I did. I don't remember like what did I do to make them think that they have to do this in order to get me to like them. And it was just this whole thing. Like it really screwed with my brain and the way that I interacted with women, and definitely never really approached women or made the first move, because that like, it wasn't that it was terrifying for me, it's that I thought it was going to be terrifying for them. And so women, thankfully, approached me often enough to where I was still able to get into relationships, but it was always a thing. But all right, I am going to run to the restroom real quick. I'll let this play. We got a panel in just a minute. We're about to start setting up for it. So.
At all, because I'm. How dare I? How you're just out here shopping for groceries? You're out here. You're here to learn. You're here to work. How dare I, go through and impose myself onto you, just going about your business? So I think that there is an issue where, like I was talking about previously, there is a lot of men who are doing the approaching who are not great, at doing it, not great people. They're kind of, low-key harassing some of these women in many circumstances. And so women are like, yeah, men approaching me doesn't feel good, because most of the men approaching them probably don't make them feel too good. And so they're just communicating that. And then there's other men who might be considerate or whatever, or just sitting back on the sidelines and are like, fuck, okay, I can't approach women anymore. I can't do it. So what do I do? If I can't approach them here, I can't approach them there. What do I do? I think a solution is to recognize that distinction. And if you are so scared to approach women in public because of you're afraid of how you come off, you are the exact type of person that should be approaching women in public, because you are so concerned with how how you come off in the ways that they might be made uncomfortable, that I would think in most scenarios, you're going to take caution and exercise caution when interacting with those, in comparison to the guys who just get like drunk and do their
Two
thing.
things, because I want to hear everyone else's. I want to hear your opinion, Tegma, but I got to make my money. $5 from Tescal Johnson to ask, Wick, you once said that if women were less educated, men would be less lonely. Didn't say that, but thank you for the $5. $10 from Aaron M. Sound to say, pay Wick more moolah, great panel. Yes, you can, gang, if you like the content, super chat my way, throw me some subs on Twitch, throw me some bits on Twitch, and Kick as well. We're monetized there as well, so by all means. But yeah, Tegma, go ahead. What are your thoughts on this? On the have we demonized approaching women too much in public?
Well, one of the things I think that we should probably demonize a little bit more is men approaching women while they're drunk. Right?
While they're drunk or while they're drinking?
Like while men are drunk or while women
while men
drunk?
are drunk, not while women are drunk.
Okay.
Hold on, I just saw a freaking crazy comment that I gotta go find. What the hell was this? Where did it go? Where did that go? Where is it? It was the D101 more comment. I don't remember what his profile picture looks like. It's like a cowboy or something, right? It started off by saying, Tom, there it is. Tom, I get that you're trying to signal you're not Christian, but men only wanting sex has nothing to do with it. What the hell does that even mean? What are you talking about? One, I'm not trying to signal that I'm not Christian. That's not related whatsoever. I don't know where in the world that came from. I'm not trying to signal that I'm not Christian. Secondly, I'm telling you how I grew up, what I was taught, like what was like told to me over and over and over. Not just me, my siblings as well. This is what, like, when you're growing up and you're like learning about women and learning how to approach women and learning how to like do relationships and crap like that, this was the fundamental thing that I was taught, is that women don't actually want any sex. They are not interested in it. Sex is not fun for them. They don't care about sex whatsoever. They just want love. The only reason that they have sex is because they want the person to love them. I grew up in a fundamental Christian house means men are just sex. That is not what I said. That's not what I said. That's literally not what I said at all. That is nowhere close to what I said. I said I grew up in a Christian fundamental household, and this is what I was taught. Yes, if you want to pretend like what I just said is not more common in a Christian fundamental household than like a progressive one, then fine, that's pure cope. But that is obviously more common in a Christian house than it is in like a progressive house or a leftist house or a liberal house or something like that. That is going to be more common. Me saying that that's how my life was or that's how I grew up does not mean that literally all Christians grew up that way. That is not what I said. That's not what I meant by it. And I'm pretty sure you're literally the only person who took it that way. I was not saying anything about all Christians or anything like that. It was misleading. I'm talking about my freaking life. It's not misleading. I'm just talking about my life. I was explaining why women approached me and why I was glad that women approached me. That's all I was doing. The end of the story was not, therefore Christians bad. The end of the story was, this is why I was glad that women approached me, and therefore I was still able to get that experience in relationships with women. That's what I was talking about. The moral of the story was never like, Christians suck.
Like, I haven't gone to the bar since I was like in my 20s. Like, I don't go to bars. Like, I don't go to bars unless I'm going for like a cider with buddies, which is different. I'm not going to get approached. I'm not here to get approached. But if you're approaching a woman, then she knows, oh, he wants to sleep with me eventually. Maybe not the first date, maybe not the second, maybe not the third. So she's going to assess you in that moment right there.
Okay, so how about, let's change the setting then from a bar to, we're talking about young men, right? 18 to 22. How about a college party?
Same thing. What are parties?
They're social gatherings.
What? They're not libraries.
Okay, I gotta interrupt. I gotta interrupt. I'm getting triggered. Oh no, please. Sorry. This sounds like if I was 20 years younger, this would make me paralyzed. Like, oh no, I can't be drunk to go up. I can't even be drinking. Like, I can't go to parties because it might be wrong. I can't go and approach women in bars because it might be wrong. Oh no, right? Like, to Ahrelevant's point earlier, this is what I think one of the major problems is, and one of the things society has done is we have said, if you're approaching women, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And how are men supposed to act? Because women and women still have this expectation of, most women, Brittany, you are a outlier here, right? Most women, oh, I don't approach men approach me. And so we have these two competing narratives going on. Women say, don't approach me, but I'm not going to approach you. So it's like a paradox almost, and we're stuck here. What do you think, Boots, about approaching in general? Like, do you share Tegma's take here about men shouldn't approach when they're drunk or been drinking and things like that?
Yeah, no, I definitely disagree with that. I think that's ridiculous. I was on a panel a while ago with a bunch of people about dating, and I totally won that panel. I totally won that panel by far. And one of the things that was said on that panel is Smith was actually asking, well, what should I do if, let's say I want to approach a girl that I've been seeing at the gym for a while? Like, how do I start that process? And two of the people on that panel were immediately like, no, don't. No, never approach a girl at the gym. No, you can't approach girls at the gym. They're not there for that. That's not why they're there. They're not there to get hit on. They're there to work out. I'm like, literally, what? Like, no, most people don't meet in places where they go to meet people. That's not how things work. Like, most couples are meeting at work, at church, at the gym, at, like, you know, I don't know, social gatherings and crap like that. Like, they're not going there to meet a partner. They just happen to meet somebody that they like. That's how that normally works. But you're saying, oh no, it's the gym. No, can't do that at the gym. The gym's where it's off limits, bro. Can't do that there. And it's so stupid. It's so dumb. Now, is it weird that people make the gym like a place to go hit on chicks, or like it's a place for them to go meet somebody? Yeah, that's weird. That's not great. That's not what you're supposed to go do there. But does that mean that's totally off limits? That's not allowed, that like any girl that you ever approach is going to get offended? No. Go get on TikTok with all the workout girls. They've all got like a bunch of videos about like their gym crush just walked in and they're going in doing squats now because they want him to see their booty and like crap like that. That's just how it works. You don't be weird. Don't just go and approach people at random. Don't go hit on a bunch of chicks. Don't go try spotting every girl you see. That like, don't be a creep about it. But chicks at the gym are not off limits. Being at the gym is not an off limits thing. That's not how that works. And people over and over saying like, oh no, it's the gym. This is off limits. Like, that's not how that works.
I don't know about that, but I think that, like, on the subject of male loneliness, if you're relying on approaching women or women approaching you or anything like that to fix your loneliness, then that's a problem. So I think that.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
Like, yeah, a lot of people think that they're lonely women because they.
Tom advocating for creeping on girls in gyms. Got it. No, I'm not. I'm advocating for creeping on girls everywhere. Everywhere. Always creep on girls everywhere you go. They're just saying like, oh, this one place is the place where you can't creep on. No, creep on them all the time, everywhere you go.
A lot of people think that they're lonely because they don't have enough attention from women or something like that. But a lot of people who are lonely, they do have friends, they do have family, they have connections. They're just not able to use them to help their loneliness.
Yes, but if specifically they want a romantic connection.
Yeah. I thought we were
okay, you might want a romantic connection, but the romantic connection is not going to fix your loneliness.
Even funerals, Tom, especially funerals, they're freaking so vulnerable there. Have you ever been to a funeral before? It's like vagina heaven, dude. Everybody is looking for somebody, okay? They all are looking to get laid at a funeral. Funerals are some of the best spots. I go funeral hopping all the time.
Loneliness.
Well, your loneliness for a romantic connection, I believe, is the prompt. Do you disagree that you can feel like a strong desire for an intimate partner, but not have it, and that could make you feel lonely?
Yeah, of course, it can make you feel lonely, but that doesn't mean that getting that is going to solve your problem.
Are you specifying the difference between being lonely and loneliness? Because I do think they're different.
How are they? I don't.
Yes, you can seriously slay at funerals, dude. Chicks are so distraught there, they don't even care if you wear a condom or not. It's freaking based. It's one of the best places. Don't miss out.
I don't know how they're different.
Well, you can feel lonely, be like, oh man, I wish I had a partner I really connected with, but whatever. Or you can be like, I am so lonely. I'm
not loneliness as the emotion, but like loneliness as the like existential concept of existing as a person who is lonely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just disagree with the take that romantic relationships can't help with loneliness in any form. I think that obviously having someone who loves you can, not always, it won't always help, right? Like, but it can. And I think it does in many situations. Like, I remember being a young man and being single and being sad. And when I got a relationship, I was less sad. It was happier. I had someone who cared about me. It was good. I don't get it.
That's what I think. Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, but that's the emotion of loneliness, not like the condition of like being a lonely person.
Boots,
there's a lot of people who are married who are still very lonely.
Right. I think Boots, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a huge difference between men and women, right? Like women are fine being alone because we cannot feel loneliness. But men, you guys are saying your loneliness is connected to it. But like I'm wondering if this is the difference. Like I get what Boots is saying. Like, yeah, I agree. Being with a partner is not conducive with your loneliness.
Wait, okay, so
first time in a stream and hearing funerals are a great place to get laid is wild. You only get this advice here. Yo, you heard it here first. The Tomfoolery Show. Nobody else is going to tell you the great places to get laid. Tomfoolery Show, #1 spot, I will tell you the hot spots to get vulnerable chicks who will let you do whatever you want to them. Angela Knight, what's up?
There's social isolation and loneliness are two different things.
Right.
Okay, hold on. So I think we got a couple of things going on. Do you agree with the idea? Did you say that women can't feel lonely?
No. But again, there's the loneliness is like a philosophy. Like think about it, philosophy. Think about the consciousness and experiencing like loneliness, and then logically knowing like, yeah, I'm just single, I'm alone, I'm not connecting with people. These are two different sensations, and I feel like men are equating them as both the same, and women aren't. Like we are like fine being single because we'd rather be single and alone than lonely in a marriage.
Maybe the women on this panel, but I don't think this is a difference between men and women like broadly necessarily.
You don't think the studies are kind of reflecting that maybe that why women are doing better in terms of single, like when husbands die, don't women technically do better after their husband's death than men whose wives die?
Perfectly never seen what you're talking about. It could be 100% possible. I haven't seen what you're speaking on. In the event that that's true, I'd have to think about why. In my mind, I have to see why they're trying to say that might be the case. So yeah, I just generally wouldn't know. I do believe though women are better suited to be able to not have friends, to be able to build friends off of like starting at ground zero, and things like that. Like I said previously, I think women are more able to do that. So it's kind of a choice thing, because I think one of the big differences between this is being single by choice and being single not by choice. These are massively different things. To be able for me to go, yeah, I just don't really want to date because I don't have time, versus I can't date because I can't find anybody who wants to be in a relationship with me. These are worlds apart when it comes to how you feel as a person being in that situation, because one is a choice and another one is like thrusted upon you, and you don't, it's a completely different feeling, right?
And yeah, the confidence that you have based on one versus the other is very different as well. Like making a conscious choice, thinking, yeah, I could be with a woman if I wanted to. If I just made some efforts, I could easily find a chick, versus like, no matter what I do, no matter how hard I try, no matter where I work, no matter like how many like balled up socks I put in my underwear to make it look like I got a bigger Johnson, I cannot get a girlfriend. I cannot find a partner. I don't have somebody else who cares about me. I don't have like a long-term relationship with somebody who I feel loved by or have like a real intimate bond with. That sucks. That's very, very different from somebody who actually just makes the conscious decision not to do that. Because I made the conscious decision to not have a girlfriend for a while or not be around women for a while. I like at times that I felt lonely, I thought, well, I could just go find a freaking chick or something, right? It's an option there to where you don't feel like you're like trapped. Yeah. Self-report Tom Stuffs. What if I did? What if I did? So what?
I think for most people, to get back to at least what we were talking about previously with the male loneliness and how it manifests for like versus women. in women's situation, I think it's actually extremely similar in some ways, because it's like, I think that women who I think there's many women who desire being inside of a relationship but have robust friendships. When they get in a relationship, they can become happier. I agree with Wick when I say I think that there is loneliness, like maybe I should change the word to a longing for a relationship that can be satiated by being in a relationship, that I tack on with loneliness, because it is a feeling of isolation, typically because
you
we,
feel
like, compare ourselves
unwanted,
to other- yeah.
unwanted, undesired, unloved, and it makes you feel it causes you to feel lonely. So when you are loved, when you are wanted, when you are desired, then that feeling is mitigated. It's a simple concept. I've seen it play out in the real world. I don't understand why I'm getting pushback for it, but I don't know.
It's because it's different. Have you ever been alone in like a crowd of people who say they like you, like as a YouTuber, like as a woman or as a man? Like, you ever been adored by people?
I've never been a woman, so I can't speak
like,
to that.
there's this reality where like lots of people say they love you, but until someone sees you, what's the validity of that love? If it's not even the way that you want to be loved, it's just for their own selfish desire of them saying they love you. It's very lonely. So there's no value in just being in a relationship. Now, Ahrelevant, you didn't mention the third option that I think, like, I just want to clarify is an option, right? You can be single and be like, I'm still waiting for that right person that I'm going to choose to be with. I'm not going to say yes to the first person who looks at me and goes, I love you too. It's like, no, like, I don't need the validation from the first person who says they love me. I want a real bond with a consciousness, right? Which means being single is just a state of being, much like meditation or anything else we're doing in life, right? Like, is this not an option? I don't hear it being named a lot.
No, yeah, it absolutely is an option. The reason why I listed those two is because I wanted to divorce the idea of like being single by choice versus being single by like a result of you either just not having what it takes because you haven't maybe developed yourself enough as a person, you just like are an undesirable partner and friend, or like because you have some other kind of issue, that prevents you from being able to. I think that's a very isolating feeling, is that, and I just kind of wanted to draw the differences between those things. But I agree that third option 100% exists.
Okay. I do want to say, back to the thing I was mentioning before, I can't remember where I read it, but it was saying that because women form great friendships, going back to what Ahrelevant said about men's loneliness, into their old age, when their husbands die, they still have a network of people to lean on, friends and family. While men, because they don't do that, tend to be more lonely in their older age. I'll send it to you guys when I find it. But that I think coincides with what you said earlier about men's friendships. Like, men are neglected even into their elderly age, which I do think is a huge concern for men, right? And by the way,
men also seem to take breakups not harder, but they deal with them longer. Like, they're mourning a breakup longer than women are generally. And yeah, same with like the death of a partner, things like that. They seem to feel lonely and take it a lot harder.
Women problems of being loved and adored is because we also cook and clean. We're there for your kids. We tend to be everyone's therapist. We tend to do a lot of things that men aren't offering as a tool, which is fine. Like, they weren't bred to do that. Like, men aren't encouraged to be women's therapist or be their family's therapist. That's the women's job, right? That's aunties and grandmas and moms, right? Like, I'm an older sister. I know what it's like to have everyone come to you at every hour of the day. Brittany, help me. Brittany, do this. Brittany, I don't know what I'm doing. I get it. Okay. Like, I got it. So again, we have to remember, like, what is culture conditioning us to be like? And then what are we also sort of naturally good at in some ways? And then can we find a balance between those two things?
What do you think, Tegma?
Well, I just had the question of, should women be expected to do all that? And can men pick up some of those responsibilities?
I think it's not gendered. I think the person who's best apt for it should do it. I think people who are naturally good at doing therapy, naturally good at being loving, naturally good at being the homemaker, like, my partner's the homemaker. I'm the breadwinner. Like, that's how we do it. Like, that's just how the situation is best, because the team needs to succeed. And that's the best way to do it, right? I love it. It's like a gift to have a balanced relationship. Same with families. We have 10 kids. Everyone has a chore. I did dishes because I was the best at dishes. But my brother did laundry. He was the best at laundry.
Even if I was the perfect right mix or compromise or whatever was needed, a lot of men, again, I keep coming back to this, but we aren't getting to the point where household chores are an issue, right? We aren't getting to the point where the division of emotional labor is an issue. We can't get past hi. We can't get past hello. I wanted to talk a little bit about something Boot said earlier about how before men had a much easier time because women weren't in a workplace, and so men were only expected to kind of have a job and use a bare minimum, and women didn't really have another choice. So one of the things that we have seen and observed is that women are more liberated now. They are making more money than they ever had before. They are more educated than they ever had before. They have more options than they've ever had before. But when they look for a man, most of them want someone who makes as much as them or
Let's go! Let's go. Really about to get it in. Tom, what are you eating? I already showed it. I already showed it on the freaking camera. Pay attention.
Or above, right? They still aren't like willing to take that my man has to have a job that pays at least as much as I make off the table. So men are still held to that expectation, but you know what I mean? Like, but they are they have to compete now with the woman themselves, and I think that also might be. Well, I'll ask. Do you think that's a problem, Boots?
I wouldn't say it's not that they have to compete with the woman themselves. It's that when men were much more likely to be making more money, that made sense. That made perfect sense. It was like, yeah, of course, you're going to expect the person who makes more money to pay for more things. Duh. But when that's not the case, and when that's not more likely, not more common, you still expect them to pay for things when you may be making just as much as them. Or your dating preferences still prefer somebody who makes more money than you when that may not be very likely. That may not be easy to find. And so now men are making less money comparative to women, yet are still expected to be the breadwinners, still expected to pay for the dates, still expected to do all of this stuff that they can't, that they're not really capable of like they used to be.
So the way that you framed it is kind of weird, because I don't think that women have set the standards for what men need to be. I think that men have set the standards for what women need to be, and then men try to live up to the best version of what they think of as the best woman.
You don't think women set the standard for what they want in a mate?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, so you're just removing all autonomy from women in that situation?
No. Like kind of in this way. Like I think that the idea of autonomy is something that's it's thought of in like this really like liberal, like I'm my own person, I make my own choices sort of way. That's not true. I don't think that's
No, not liberal. Whoa!
That's true. I think that we all sort of fall into these ideologies and that we are kind of raised in, and we think that our choices are our choices, but they're very limited. I think that, and I think that women choosing this type of man is not a choice that they're freely making.
Okay, but then you would also agree that men choosing these things that make them less desirable isn't really a choice on their own either. Like that goes both ways to men and women. So when we're talking about men's
that's men's problem
decisions that make them less desirable inside of the place, it felt like you were very comfortable with saying an individualist approach rather than a societal approach. Why aren't you doing the same for women?
Wait, how do you mean? Choices that make them less desirable?
Like not having good communication skills, maybe not a very robust emotional intelligence, things like that. Maybe unwilling to participate in what we would consider to be feminine activities, like nurturing or looking after our women counterparts or partners.
But those things were thought of as ideal. So if they're not thought of as ideal anymore, then the idea of masculinity needs to change.
I think the idea of masculinity does need to change. Does anybody here disagree with that? I also think the idea of femininity needs to change. Does anybody here disagree with that? So what's the issue? The problem is that it felt like when we talked about women, you were very like, okay, well, society gears them towards liking this kind of man, so like putting the responsibility on them. But when we were initiated here talking about loneliness in the men, you were very comfortable saying, well, men got to do this, they got to fix that about themselves. I mean, it's an individual thing. That's on you. It's not women's responsibility to look after your loneliness. Why is it my responsibility to look after how a woman is raised to be able to like do whatever?
Women's preferences are not hurting them.
That's not true.
They just explained how they are. Women not choosing to be with them is hurting them. Women's standards are what hurts them. But then you're saying, well, men are the ones setting these standards anyways, and this is what hurts the women. You recognize it in the opposite direction, but not with him. What the hell?
You don't
men's
believe
choices
that, do you?
are to not do things that they think would like make them appealing to women are hurting them.
Wait, you don't actually believe that women's preferences aren't hurting them, do you?
I mean, like if you think of like the preference of liking somebody who's a really toxic
Yes,
man, then yes,
because
does.
of the patriarchy.
But,
yeah, women are conditioned to like
with the
those kinds of
preferences that
men.
we were talking about there, like preferring a man that makes more money than you. I don't think that's hurting women.
But it is
Really,
hurting women.
it is. It literally is. It's limiting their dating pool artificially. Like Brittany, for a great example, would not have met her partner if that was the case, and that she's happily married
Okay,
to.
but she didn't have that as one of her preferences, so I don't understand the issue. If that's something that is actively hurting you, that is something that you need to change. Yeah.
She doesn't have preferences. That's a liberal ideal of individualism.
Well, my point is, I think by and large, it is actively hurting to set up an arbitrary. Why should a man have to make equal to or more money than you just because he's a man? What we should do is we should go case by case. Hey, maybe I want a man who earns more money than me because I want to be a homemaker. I want to have children. I want to look after the children, things like that. Reasonable, fine. I don't think anybody here is going to disagree with that. If you want that, go for it, right? But like just the idea on its face that the man should earn more money than me, like the brother Wick was talking about in the prompt, like that's unreasonable, no? To just say like that. And I think that is a preference that is pushed on women. I agree with you. I don't think women just choose, oh yeah, you know what, fuck that shit. No, they're conditioned to think that is a that
it's
is
an
a worthwhile
artifact.
man.
Yeah, it's an artifact from back when men were the only ones able to work. But sorry.
Yeah, I think Ahrelevant said it earlier. Like, and it's a human thing. We're talking about a huge shift in culture right now, and women are still confused about the script as much as men are. And I do want to encourage, and I encourage all my female friends, like, hey, if you're gonna date these straight dudes, because I date like in very like queer progressive circles, like if you're gonna date these straight dudes, you guys are gonna have to talk about the expectations of gender roles, no matter your political affiliation, because these are mostly liberal women. But they do expect them, like they do have this idea of dating like college graduates or people who make the same amount of money or above. They do have that same, which doesn't make sense to me, because I'm like, are we a team or are we a team, right? Like, why are we using an old script? So I would say that it is hurting people because I think they associate the old script with romanticism, and I think you can be romantic in the modern world.
Yeah.
Rabid Wombat.
Don't you? Sorry,
just gonna make a little more money. Rabid Wombat donated to ask women, or say actually, women break up with men that cry in front of them. Men solve this by choosing not to cry. Sounds healthy, Boots.
No, I don't think that that's healthy at all. Like I think that there's a lot of toxic masculinity ingrained in women as well.
Well, so the whole point was that's supposed to be a preference that women have that hurt them as well as men.
Okay, if that is one that hurts them, that is something that if it actually hurts them, then they need to change. Yeah.
But they don't know it hurts them. Just like men aren't knowing they're hurting themselves. Like nobody knows because they're not self-aware, because nobody's introspective, okay? You have to have a relationship with yourself. Why do we keep picking the same patterns? Why aren't we happy with the fact that we haven't found our perfect person? Have we even started to work on ourselves? Are we signaling the right things to our partners? Are we going to the right communities? I'm sick of like people telling me like, I want to find a partner, and they're going to like the worst possible places to find that partner because they're following some social script of like, I have to date this guy for status or this woman for status.
Somebody yesterday said that Brittany and Boots were saying crazy stuff about men and like man-hating feminist stuff. But Brittany this entire time has said pretty normal stuff. Ahrelevant's been super based. I haven't really been able to keep up with what's his name again? Tekken? Technap. No, not Tech9. Nobody knows his name. I feel bad. I know him. I just can't remember his name. Tegma. Thank you. Tegma, I haven't really been able to keep up with much of what he was saying. I agree. Like, every time I pause and say stuff, Ahrelevant immediately says it after, or he says it shortly after. Like, I'm on board with literally everything that Ahrelevant's saying and kind of the points he's trying to get across. But Boots is off on an island by herself, so I'm not sure why those two were conflated.
Status. If you want status, make a contract and have fun, kids. If you want a love marriage that's about consent and growing together and being a team, you're gonna have to work a lot harder.
Question, right? If men, as a whole, as a group, woke up one day more emotionally vulnerable, they were more willing to do household chores, they were much better and more self-aware, much more introspective, do we think that would actually fix the problem?
I think it would push us in a better direction, but I don't think it would fix the problem because
it would be helpful. That would fix nothing.
Like I said previously, I think men and women pull the boat in a direction we don't want to be in, and we need to course correct. So we'd be like turning, right? We'd be turning the boat towards the right direction.
In your opinion, what are women doing wrong? Wait, we've talked a lot about men and what they're doing wrong. Let's talk about what women are doing. And Ahrelevant. I know that you have thoughts on this, so I want to hear what you think that women in general are doing wrong and that they need to fix.
I think that I think it's actually very difficult because I have some experience with some pretty toxic women in my life, but they're doing it, I think, because of like very socialized reasons, and I think that's like very difficult to be able to deal with. So, as an example, I had a previous partner who I was asking them like, "Hey, what do you want me to do sexually? Because I'm not just going to start fucking throwing you around in the bedroom and then just hope you like it. That's cringe to me. I'm not going to be that guy." And they explicitly told me they did not want to say it because it would ruin it. To communicate it would to ruin it. This is objectively a bad trait, right? I think we can all agree. That's not a good trait to have, right? So, but I can be sensitive to that idea because they were. It's not like they chose to have that trait, right? It's not like they chose to find that hot or sexy and things like that. So there's going to be some things that we're going to need to look at that women reinforce in men that present as bad issues, right, or bad problems. There's other scenarios as well, like just briefly, there was a man who told a story. I think it was Abba from Abba and Preach, who told a story about how he was having sex with a woman, and he was like, "Hey, you want to do it? You want, or sorry, not having sex. He was like laying down with a woman in the bed, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do it?" And she said no. And then later, after they woke up or whatever, because nothing happened, she said, "I'm surprised. Like, I wanted you to keep going. I don't know why you didn't do this." As like a young man, this could just like, what is the lesson to learn here?
Cases,
I feel like that's a
many
Louis
such
CK
cases.
joke,
I
too.
think almost
Louis
every
CK
man.
joke
Oh,
on
is
that.
it a Louis C.K. joke? My bad.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
pretty sure that's a Louis C.K. joke.
I've had experiences that weren't jokes, and also talked to
Yeah.
many of my male friends that have had similar experiences where this weren't jokes. Like, I think I've told the story before, but it's brief, so I'll tell it again. I was making out with a girl, young Wick, okay, so 20-year-old Wick, okay, I'm making out with a girl. You know, I tried to get to second base, and she's like, "Oh, stop, I'm a good girl." Okay? And so I stopped, and we just continued making out. And then she kind of got cold. She stopped, and you know, she kind of started picking herself. I'm like, "Well, what's wrong?" "Well, good girls like bad boys." And then she just looked at me. And what am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do with that information?
That is toxic as hell, dude. Damn. That is so messed up. Whew.
But that isn't a unique experience. That isn't a one-off. That happens all the time.
It does. It's happened to me with girls. It's happened to me with girls. They've literally been like, "I wanted you to force me." I was like, "Girl, I'm not gonna play this game with you. I'm not gonna play this game."
Is that like the average woman for real?
No. It's not, and I don't think anybody would claim
it's not
that it's
average, but it happens enough where it's.
Yeah, I would never say that's the average woman, but that's like 20% to where like everybody knows one of those people.
Problem.
It can like even one or two.
Like, it's not to that extreme, but I think that the average woman, yes, does like sort of fetishize her own like objectification in that way.
Sure, yeah, and I think that's a part of how women need to be a part of the solution, is because if you're a young man in that situation that I believe Abba talked about, that the Louis C.K. joke or Wick was going through, if you're a young man, you can just grow to be like a sexual assaulter or a rapist off of that one interaction. Especially if that's like your first, you can just create a like really terrible person off of that one interaction, right? And so, you know, there has to be a process where you have to tell some people, hey, these things that you might desire, these situations that you're looking for, they actually are conducive to really unsafe situations, not only for yourself, but also like future women that this man might interact with. So yeah, I think that is kind of the role that women need to play. In that is recognizing some of their unhealthy.
Go ahead,
habits.
Tegma's trying to get in here. I want to give him space.
Do you think that do you think it's more those types of situations, or also getting bad information from other men, like telling men what women want?
I think usually what happens is it starts with a situation where it's a little weird. It's not to these necessarily extremes. Maybe they are. They start with a situation like that. The guy gets really confused. What do you want from me? And then Andrew Tate says, "Well, you know what she wants from you. Hey, like, come on. Hey, look, come on. You know how it is, right?" And that's it, right? And then it starts to make sense. Oh shit, this is actually making sense. These people, they get women. They get it. They're telling me to do this shit. Yeah, that's valid. I know what I need to do now. And you're like, you feel armed with new information because the world is now making sense to you in a way that it honestly shouldn't.
And I also think, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, please. You really should speak up. I've been talking a lot.
Okay, all right. I had another question about like going back to the earnings thing and men needing to be like the primary breadwinner. Is it more women's expectation of men doing that and stepping up to the plate, or is it also a stigma of passed down by men, like hey, you're kind of a little bitch if you stay home and want to be the homemaker, you're lazy?
That's what Boots was saying, is that like the patriarchy sets up these standards and they tell women what it is that they're supposed to look for, and then once they tell, what the hell, weird, Once they tell women what they're supposed to look for, then men try to become the ideal that they've created.
You're good for nothing, you're a piece of shit, like you're a beta, stuff like that. Is it more that stigma from other men and looking bad and weak to other men, or is it women's expectations, or is it 50-50?
I think that plays a part in it. Absolutely. I've had other men like judge my relationships if I wasn't making as
Who is that? Answer us, Tom. Who is who?
much money as my partner. I've had men look at me less. That happens. But I don't think it's unique to men. I know a lot of women who've looked at me like that if I've been in a situation where I'm making much less, being supported by my significant other. I've been looked down on by other women, too. So, I mean, I think it's just a society just looks down on you as a man. You aren't the breadwinner.
This is why we need better cultural depictions, media depictions of men and women working low wage or moderate salary jobs and being seen as respectable pillars of their community like they are. We need more positive depictions of bus drivers and shit. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, like, I think most people are...
The goofy transition. This just went to the wrong screen. That is part of the screen that you're looking at right now with the top of Boots' head. It's just cut off right there.
Like doing averagey things. We're all trying to just do our best and have our families and live our lives. And I will say, look, when my brothers interrogated my now husband, okay, that was a lot for him, but he handled it so well. And the first thing they went for is like, how much do you make? Do you make more than her? Like, what do you do? How do you feel about the fact that she's like on the internet? Like, they just went in on him. They're like, you're kind of like a little gamer boy, aren't you? You like play games? And I was like, okay, you all play games. Like, everybody chill. But like, they went in, and his confidence, his humor, his ability to be like, yep, like I know who I am and I'm into it. Like, his confidence made my brothers go, he's a good one. Like, you pick somebody who is confident and secure in himself, and that's all we've ever wanted for you. Because like, to be honest, like, insecurities in all of us, and I think you grow into that security, you grow into your confidence, you live and you learn through rejection, right? And I do think like that is what people are missing, is like every opportunity is a moment to be a better, more secure version of yourself, but you have to have that relationship with yourself. But it's hard because it does feel rejection. It does feel like I'm never going to be loved. It feels like I'm worthless. But instead it's like, oh God, I want to change the mindset. I want to have a different perspective on it, because I think there's a real perspective to be had here.
Do we so this is maybe a little bit of a vibe change, but I am curious because, again, one of the reasons I put this panel together is because of this vibe. It triggered me. Every time I see people talk about men's issues or try to bring up men's issues, I think that a lot of the response, especially from the left, is, why are you even talking about it? Why are you even discussing it? We have so many other issues going on. The questions I have for you is, why do you think that is? Is it healthy? And if we want to change it, and we might not, what do we do to change that? And I know, Boots, specifically, you had an issue you said that you wanted to bring up with me about how I usually handle it, right? At the beginning of the things, you said you had a problem with how I talk about this.
Oh, no, I think we kind of talked about that. Like, just the whole, like, relying on women to, like, a relationship would totally fix this person. Like, yes, this person has a right to this. But no, yeah.
It's not like a big thing. Me using the word deserve? Okay, fair enough. But my other questions remains, and I'm curious.
Yeah, I think that like leftists these days, who are really just like liberals, have this like super strong focus on identity, and if something bad is happening, it's because of some part of your oppressed status, unless somebody else is more oppressed, something bad is happening too. So it's really hard for people to talk about men's issues because men are the oppressors. Sorry, I don't want to imply that I think that. I think this kind of thing happens like in a lot of different ways. I don't want to get into it, but like you can see this happening when women speak up about trans stuff. They get shut down, even though women are marginalized. Like, this is women are people that we have to pay attention to because they're not heard as much, unless somebody who is less heard is speaking up at the time. And I think that that's kind of happening.
Like when white people talk about black stuff, it's not fair. They won't listen to them. Nobody cares.
With men, like even in the men's conversation, they're like, Black men are definitely much lonelier than white men. Absolutely. Because they lack the familial connections. They lack the strong bonds that white men do. I looked it up earlier, really, in case you were doing that. And it's hard for us to focus on that. Hard for them to focus on that because there's nobody that can be sort of put down.
What do you think, Tegma? Because you've had some problems with this. I've seen you tweet about it.
Yeah, I think somebody's marginalized status probably doesn't probably. It definitely has an impact on, you know, the level of loneliness you're going to feel, because the idea of that is that you're literally left behind by society, right? So, you know, in addition to all of the other complicated things that we just talked about, you're, you know, devalued and pushed aside by society. So there's that, and then you have systems working against you. There's that idea as well. So, can you repeat the question, Wick, a little
Sure.
bit?
Well, I'll
So
just
I
be
can-
direct here. Well, first of all,
Yeah.
$5 from Bass FSC to say you should have had me on the panel. I would have gone ham on this one. My question is, why does this topic always avoid how much men love women? Well, we'll get to that. But so Techma,
What?
you tweeted out and
What? Why does this topic always avoid how much men love women? True, we really gotta figure that one out. What's up with men loving women, guys?
the reason again I reached out to you was due to one of these
Mm-hmm.
tweets. Things like men should just be better, and
They should.
men aren't lonely; they just want someone to fuck. I'm paraphrasing, right?
Yeah, sometimes men do put that out there where I'm feeling lonely and I just want to fuck. Yeah, absolutely.
But I
It's
guess
a manipulative thing that men do sometimes. Absolutely. Just like there are manipulative things that women do, for sure.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen the tweet, but if the statement was just like men, or put as plainly or
I can find
in
it.
the paraphrasing as that, yeah, I would like to see it, because I feel like that's a very broad statement to just put out there.
So one of the tweets 19 hours ago: have lonely men tried being better people? Yeah.
What
Then
the
we
hell?
got what tweeted you here? When men say they are lonely, it means women won't go out on dates and have sex with
Bruh, what? That you for real?
them. So again, why do we? Yeah, why is
yeah,
this
I-
response when people are like, when men are saying, "Hey, I'm lonely and I'm having an issue"? Why is this okay to respond to them like this?
I didn't respond to anybody with that tweet. I just put that out there. First of all, I wasn't retweeting anybody. You know, it was in regard to the male loneliness thing, in regards to like Andrew Tate and all these different, you know, different variables. Yeah, I do.
I mean,
but
you're making a general
talk-
statement about men, though.
yeah, and
But that's what when they say in response to, they're saying like you're doing it in response to male loneliness, or you're doing it in response to men saying that they can't get laid or they can't find a partner, like not in response to some specific tweet.
And do you think that like male loneliness, like when a man says he's lonely, it really just means he's horny?
well, we had a whole panel on just like how men are lonely because they can't get dates, right? That was part of what I said as
Dates are different than getting laid.
well.
Well, that wasn't in the tweet, no?
That goes beyond.
Yeah, it was. It was men can't. Okay, I'll bring up the tweet.
Yeah.
The thing that I said was, it wasn't just men can't get laid. It was
No, I'll read it again. I have it up.
when men say they are
this is
lonely, it
word
means
for word.
women won't go out on dates and have sex with me. That's two things. That's not just one thing.
You said
Right.
and have sex with me, but sure, yeah.
Part of
Do
it.
you, do you
yeah.
really do you believe that to be true? You don't think there's men who are lonely because they can't find friendships? Isn't there like 1 in 5 men who have no close friends? You don't think any man who says he's lonely is saying,
Of course, I think that. Of course.
okay, so then when you say men who say they're lonely, what they really mean is they can't get dates and have sex with women. Like if you were like some men or something like that, you just said men.
Okay.
If I said women just want to look for men who make more money than them because they're gold diggers, what would you say?
Nah, I don't like that argument. Like, if somebody says, like, you know, leftists all think X, Y, and Z, they're not saying literally each and every single leftist, even though they said leftists all. Obviously, they're like, it's a general statement of, like, what they believe most leftists believe, or leftists generally. To say that, like, if somebody responded to that tweet with, like, no, I know one leftist that doesn't believe that, everybody would be like, shut the hell up, bro.
That's
And I'm pretty
cringe,
sure
like,
you
hey,
said
you
something very similar to that in a conversation that I've had with
Yeah.
you previously.
Like, people make
you do make
sweeping
broad
generalizations.
statements about women.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
you
Can you
can
give us
pull
an
it up.
example?
I
Like,
did not.
I just want
hear-
everybody who
Please,
hasn't
Simon.
made like a broad sweeping generalization at one point on Twitter, just, you know, raise
Yeah,
your
but
hand.
I do it for money, and I let
Wait, what? Wait, what? But I do it for money? What?
people know I do it, and I'm not.
Okay, I'll
I
let
don't back
people
off
know
of
I
it.
do it. Like, okay, I just put
Fair
it
enough.
out there, man.
But
That's it.
I'm
Like-
curious.
What does that even mean? What?
Yes. Like, I'm having a conversation now. Like,
Sure.
now people know what my
But
actual views are.
I'm asking you, do you not think that even just putting stuff like that into the ether, I think that you were indicative. It's not just a you thing, Techman. I'm singling you out because you're the only one here, right?
Sure.
But there are a vast number of individuals who have made tweets worse than that, just responding to problems with male loneliness of...
Yes, this is literally like where people kept saying the left doesn't care about men's problems, the left doesn't pay attention to men, the left isn't doing enough to try to, you know, pull lonely men into their communities. Like, this is exactly the same thing, where they are saying the left does this. This is what everybody said. This is what everybody does. This is what everybody means by that, is they're all making general statements based on a general label.
Just fuck them, basically. Like, that's how it felt, right? It's absolutely
I think
how
people
it felt.
don't care about other people's problems when they feel like the people that have made their problems harder are complaining. Men have made people's problems harder, so when they complain, it's hard to give a fuck.
I mean, I think people generally don't care about other people's problems in the first place.
Unless it usually
it's, like,
relates
politically
to them, right?
advantageous for you to care, yeah.
Right, because people are like, we can't care for everybody. There's 8 billion people. It's too many.
Yeah, and the idea is why should we elevate men's problems over like all of the other groups of people we have that also have issues? That's another part of people's frustrations. You know, if I could steel man them, I guess.
Please go ahead.
Well, I just did. That's, you know, like we have problems in other marginalized communities. We have problems with women, Roe v. Wade being one of them. Or, you know, seeing a rollback in, you know, women's reproductive rights. We're seeing a rollback in, you know, trans healthcare as well. Why should we prioritize men over other groups, right?
To be honest,
that's not what I believe.
if we did,
like,
those things would go away.
Yes, thank you,
If we
Brittany.
helped men
Yes.
become emotionally mature and be introspective and give them space to grow, I hate to say it, if we actually did, then they would understand why reproductive rights are important and why queer people aren't their enemy and why they need to take a chill pill.
Okay, I agree with that. But are you a coach or something? Like do you work with people?
Yeah.
She is. She's like a freaking life coach, but she won't use that label.
And like self-improvement and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So probably you would agree that when you're working with somebody, I'm a personal trainer too, by the way. So one of the things that you would agree, if someone wants to achieve their goals or improve themselves or improve something that they otherwise weren't aware of or wouldn't admit to, right? The first thing is that individual in front of you has to take accountability for their goals and what they want to do. So if you're telling men like, okay, we need to be more emotionally like mature so that we understand other people that are different from us, blah blah blah, right? That only gets you so far. If men don't take accountability, or individual men, or however you want to phrase it, don't take that accountability, don't take that first step to improve, you know, whatever it is they need to improve, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the problem is like, I would like more men to be like Ahrelevant. How do I make that happen, right? The thing is Ahrelevant was raised around women, and he was also given opportunities that maybe shifted his narrative, or he was given given cards that pushed him into a pocket of the world, or I can't make everyone irrelevant, so I have to meet people where they're at. So meeting people where they're at is sometimes they're not ready to admit it. Like, I have a few callers, I love them, like they're great, but like they are male callers, and they will be like, I'm going to complain about women and why I'm single, but I do not want to hear it from you. I'm like, go ahead. And they'll complain, and I'll look at them and like, I know what you're thinking. And I'm like, but like, do you see how we're still at the same problem we were at? People aren't ready just because we need them to be. Society isn't ready. It's not where we need it to be. So we have to work on the individuals that are ready to do it. And I think as a whole, men aren't ready yet, but they're slowly working on it.
I want to ask the rest of the panel if they think that more men should be like Ahrelevant. Tegma, do you think more men should be like Ahrelevant?
I don't know much about Ahrelevant to make that judgment. I think, you know,
Boots.
I think he's okay.
Oh,
I mean, he seems pretty intelligent.
I'll settle for okay.
Yeah. It's a solid C. It's passing. We'll go with it. Boots.
Women in my chat love Ahrelevant. I just want to say that right now. We're loving him.
Hey.
Do you think more men should be like Ahrelevant? Why or why not? You mentioned earlier that he made broad, generalized statements that you took issue with. You want to elaborate?
Yeah, like even earlier they got onto Ahrelevant for making broad generalized statements, so I don't know why he was upset with a broad generalized statement from Tegma.
Yeah, we had a convo at like the start of the incel arc, and it was I don't know, like maybe he's changed since then. I don't think that more men should be like Ahrelevant. I think that even Ahrelevant thinks that he shouldn't be like Ahrelevant. I think that he's constantly trying to improve himself and become like the man that he should be. I think I don't think I don't think that more men should be like him.
Well, open and considerate and thoughtful and self-improving, those ways, I mean.
Well, $2 from Adarius. $2 from Adarius to say women be less capable. So true, King. But yeah, what about Boots? What about Ahrelevant do you think is lacking?
Are you just trying to start conflict?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do.
I think that Ahrelevant thinks of relationships in a really transactional way. He thinks of women and other people in general as things to complete him and help him in his journey rather than as their own individual people. Maybe that's changing. I think that kind of changes as you learn to have relationships. So that's good. I hope that is, because that was really frustrating. I think that he's using his own self-improvement as a way to ignore his depression and attempt to treat it in a way that is like not admitting that the sadness is something that's permeating your life, and the inadequacy is something that is manifesting in a very misogynistic, toxic way.
Jesus, you're my therapist at this point. Holy
Irrelevant.
fuck. All right,
Yeah.
goddamn, you know more about me than I do.
Do
Holy
you
shit.
think
I've
more
talked to
men
you
should be like
once. Jesus Christ, I talked to you once. Sheesh. Okay. Damn. All right. Okay. So, one, I'm very confident I'm not depressed. I actually think I'm one of the most happy people on planet Earth.
I remember saying that quite a bit.
Yes, and I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty true because I feel great joy for the things that I have. I'm proud to say I haven't been lonely in 11 years, which is incredibly nice as not only like given the context as a man, but also like as a person. That's very rare. And the reason why is because I've spent very deliberate time building robust friendships with people around me, as well as my identical twin brother. Shout out to that guy, my best friend ever. Right? That's been really resilient over the years. And so there's that for the depression. The other points, I mean, I guess I would just need to know exactly where you're drawing the line and stuff like that. But yeah, I think in general, everything that I've said has been pretty consistent. I think that I've shared these opinions for a while. You were talking about like my changes that I've made has been. I didn't really understand. Maybe you were getting at the idea of like coping with sadness or depression or something. The changes that I made were because I recognized that there was a problem where my social skills are lacking, and that resulted in an inability to get inside of relationships because I straight up, I'm not very funny or charismatic when it comes to interacting with women I don't know. So it was very difficult to be able to do it. I thought I would do it on stream. I thought I'd be able to go through several pieces of self-improvement, including working out and building those social skills. So if other people have that problem, they can go through it with me. That's how I would view it, I guess. If you have that perspective of me, it's fine.
Fair enough. Well, we are kind of wrapping up on the closed portion of this, but I've been getting like.
Okay. I gotta go to sleep.